Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Wednesdays with Will and Terry. Today we have a special guest, not only a special guest, but a very special friend, one of my best friends. And for the first time, one of my best friends is meeting one of my best friends. I call them both brothers. We have with us the owner, the CEO actually, of the Seed Box, our sponsor. But we're not going to be talking about the Seed Box today, guys. We have with us John Moore. John, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. This episode, guys, is going to be lighthearted. It's going to be fun. Simply, what we're going to do is just talk about some of our favorite movies and some of the movies that influenced us, made us laugh, made us cry. And then we're also going to talk about some books because John is a very avid reader. So we're going to talk about some books that have touched us. It's just going to be fun. We're going to laugh. We might shed a tear or not. You know, just talking about some of the movies and books that we've enjoyed over the last 30 plus years of our lives. So Terry, I will let you kick it off, brother. What you got for us?
Oh man. I say one of the most iconic movies of my childhood that I still carry with me to this day and has gotten me through situations is The Goonies. I don't know if you guys are familiar with The Goonies.
But never seen The Goonies.
To me, I feel like you're missing like part of being human, man. If you miss that. Hey, you've missed it too, or what?
Bro, I've missed it. It's like an alternate Little Rascals, right?
Similar. It's a little more mature than the Little Rascals by like a hair. But it's basically like some kids, they're like adventurous kids, like a group of kids in a small town, and they find like a map and they're from one of the characters' father's like travels or whatever, and it turns out to be a treasure map from One Eye Willie, and he is like a famous pirate from like back in those days or whatever. He was supposed to be one of like the main pirates, and then like very successful, long lived or whatever. And then so they were losing their property. They're about to get kicked out of their property or whatever for like, I guess the whole area, their neighborhood was going to get closed down, shut down, and they were going to build like businesses or whatever there. But they grew up there. So the kid found the map and they was like, dude, this is a way that we can like stop this. We can pay them if we find this treasure. And so him and all his friends just like pack up and go after the treasure or whatever. And they ended up finding it and all that, but like the things that they go through in there were pretty tense. Like from a kid's view, like we looked at it as like fun adventures and stuff. But I would recommend people go back and like as an adult go and watch these childhood movies. You'll catch a whole nother side of it, you know.
Heck yeah.
And so it was pretty crazy to see it from like their parents' perspective. Like now that I'm a person with kids and you know responsibilities like that, to see like how detrimental it is for to keep imagination healthy, you know, within your family, not even just within the kids, within the community itself, like within people in general, to keep an imagination like between like still like test what's possible or not, because something that was completely unimaginative, the way they made it play out seemed like very possible. And it kept like, we used to, even still to this day, I call my cousin and we're like, yeah, Goonies for life. Like we'll say stuff like that because we used to watch all these things together and we had clubs, all type of stuff. But that was one. It was pretty cool. What about you, Will?
For reference to a lot of people when they hit me up on IG or they be like, man, why are you always looking down? I have my laptop right here. So I'll be looking up the information Terry or the guests be talking about. So I don't be not paying attention, guys. I don't know how to type in fast and not look down. I'm a one finger typer. So a lot of times I'll be looking down and up. But
we should do it like the Muppets movie when they break it off and then we be like talking to the devil down there like, what's up, bro? How's it going?
Yeah. Somebody walk behind me. You be like, what's going on? But me and John have this conversation getting there every time we talk about movies that just influenced us or movies and stuff. And he'll give me a like recommendation on a book. So I'm gonna drop my top three. Number one, Forrest Gump. Probably my favorite movie ever made, my favorite movie in the world, because it's just every time I watch it, I learn something new about it, or I see something from a different perspective. So I'm gonna go Forrest Gump, number one. Number two, I'm gonna go Denzel Washington's probably most underrated movie, John Q. John Q, Denzel, number two. Number three, I'm gonna go what I believe to be the best movie Robert Williams ever acted in and co-starred in it with Cuba Gooding Jr., What Dreams May Come. But you know, everybody knows I'm a horror movie buff, so I'm sure people who know me was expecting me to say like some low budget, B-list, Evil Dead type of stuff. But that's what I watch
rap right there.
You know, a form of entertainment. But if I'm talking about movies that inspired me, inspirational movies that touched me in a certain way, Forrest Gump, because to me what Forrest Gump did is it pretty much showed like you could do anything with love and belief. Like he was just, I hate to say it like that, but the movie kind of describes him as a simpleton, you know, somebody who would be deemed below average as far as IQ, but yet he accomplished things that so many other people who you would think had a higher IQ or him, maybe more money than him, maybe more responsible, more educated. And they didn't do a lot of the things he did. And all of the things that he did was kind of really rooted in love. But the movie is just comedy, from the scene with the Black Panther Party, to him showing his butt to the president, to Bubba asking for us like this happened. He's like, it got shot. So, you know, that movie is just hilarious to me. Then you got John Q, which is pretty much touches me because it reminds me of the situation with my brother, you know, him having a heart condition and then needing a pacemaker. Thank God he's still now. He doesn't need it. It's still there, but it's off. You know, his heart is 100% healed. But just watching Denzel touch apart, how do you act something like that, you know, where it's like my child is dying from something that's uncurable and I'm willing to put my life on the line so that my child could live. If you was watching that movie and you didn't know it was a movie, you would think there's this man really in the hospital holding it hostage. But if y'all ain't never seen these movies, by the way, spoiler alert. I never thought I'd be saying that. Spoiler alert.
Snap.
Y'all seen these movies or read any of these books, right? But yeah, John Q is a good one. Honestly, if I had to choose one, if all three of them were on, I would probably watch What Dreams May Come, because it touches on everything that I believe in. It touches on faith, you know, what happens after you pass. And it's not, the movie is not biblically correct, but just the idea of a man who, you know, went through purgatory and went through hell and everything to save his wife in order to bring her back to heaven. It's a beautiful love story. It talks about faith. It talks about forgiveness, conquering fears. Really, really good movie. John, I know you ain't really the movie man, but I know you got some movies locked in there.
Well, you might have asked a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
Terry, what makes the Goonies, like, in your opinion, what makes the Goonies like a cultural, iconic movie? Because it's one of those that like lasted to tell a time. Like, are there like certain like principles or life keys in that movie, or like?
Well, I think that only certain movies can stand the test of like generations, but it was so ahead of its time with how I like to describe it is, the best way is that it was simplified to basics, and they're untouchable, they're unchangeable. I seen a special with Eddie Griffin. He's one of my favorite stand-up comedians, and he was saying that back talking about when he was young and how now kids got cell phones and stuff, but back in the day we used to go down the block and knock on doors like, yeah, is Jose is he dressed and ready? Then the next one, is Daryl ready? And the next one, you know, and you build up this gang, and now you sit at the corner and you're like, where are we gonna go today? And those key. And then you have a brainstorm session, right? And everybody's like, we could go to McDonald's. Like, nah, bro, they got stupid toys there. Besides, I always spot you guys. Then the next one is like, well, we could go do this and that. And you're like, everybody was like individuals, right? Everybody was individuals. Everybody had key morals to their families. Like, oh, I got to be home at this time for this. Oh, I can't go over there, dude. I'm Catholic. Like, you know, we can't do that type of stuff, or like, you know, this person. And then we had like always somebody who like I can't eat there because I have a retainer, or like, you know, they were on some type of medication, and it was super dope. It's like the same reason why, like, Will, you would agree with this, is like it lasted because of the group.
I was
It
just
wasn't the
saying,
character.
in my
Damn.
mind, it sounds like it sounds like you're comparing the movie to It, but with no killer clown.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't, the clown didn't matter. He needed the kids. That movie needed the kids, and this movie was the kids. And it was the same reason why, like, Little Monsters, or like what's the other one? The Sandlot, or different movies like that. Even older movies, like you got like The Wood and things like that, where like people, it's a group and they all trust each other, but they all handle the situation different ways, but they trust things, you know?
Well, let me ask you a question then, both of y'all. Let me pose a question and stand in the vein of what you're talking about, kid movies. Why do you think kid movies always stand the test of time? Do you think that it's because all of us can relate to being children? Like, you might watch Wolf of Wall Street and we all can't really relate to doing stocks or being a billionaire, or you know, we can't relate to being a lawyer. Or you might watch like a movie about a fireman and it's like, oh, well, I don't want to run in a house on fire. But if you think about, like you said, you got the Sandlot, you got the movie you're talking about, the Goonies, you got The Woods, where they go from children, you got Lord of the Flies, you got even shows like, what's the one you said earlier? You compared the Goonies to like Alfalfa and Buckley.
Rugrats.
No, not the
Rugrats. Got a cartoon.
Not Rugrats.
Okay, you got the kids' cartoons, right? Cartoons with children. Yeah. You got the Little Rascals.
Little Rascals.
Yeah.
Children in entertainment itself. And not only do they sell, I think it lasts.
No, yeah. And I think it's because, to answer your question, I think it's because, like, what's the ultimate experience in life? It's just like every experience, like getting up and getting out there and getting experience is like what we seek every time we wake up, right? And what you don't want to go alone. So like even as adults, I think what causes like the anxiety and the depression and the fear and things like that is like feeling more and more solo as you get older. You know, people start separating, their life goes different ways. And even if you have them as a phone contact, I mean, that's still cool, but it's not the same as like, what do we do as boys? Like we reminisce on like past experiences. And these movies, they suck you in as a kid, especially with like, I was introverted as a kid. So I studied these movies to learn how to like have friends, you know what I mean? And so like, as I got older, like I remember like getting a pair of PF Flyers because of, you know, the Sandlot. And I was just like, they're like, when I get to school, they're going to see like that I can run fast, obviously, because I know what shoes to buy, you know what I mean? And then I'm going to wear a shirt like him too. So I can have like a clean white t-shirt on. I'm going to look like I know what. It's just some of the things that like, as a kid, I remember like having these moments of ideas from these movies, and they actually played out in my days. And then as adults, I mean, even more so now than anything, we still seek like a crew. We still seek a group. You know what I mean? I mean, you can go out by yourself, but it's not the same. Even I watch movies by myself, but then there's some movies like, I need to see this again with the homies. You know, I can't react. I can't really absorb this movie correctly by myself, or this experience or things like that. So I think that's what that is.
I'll say this. I got two movies that I know for me were children-based movies, 3 of them, and I couldn't stand them, bro. One was Free Willy. One was E.T. And the last one was Radio Flyer. If those movies were on, man.
Yeah, Radio Flyer.
I'd rather watch MASH, bro. Turn the Fox.
Wait a minute. Never mind. You know what I was thinking of? Radio with Cuban Gooding. That's why I was like, not for me, bro.
Yeah, I know that we're not supposed to say certain words, but have you ever seen Tropic Thunder when Lance Grossman is playing the one with you make me happy, and then Robert Downey Jr. is playing the black dude Lincoln Osiris, and he's like, you know what your problem is, man? You're never supposed to go full. And then he says the word we're not supposed to say. I'll say, you're never supposed to play a slow man 100%. And he was like, And he was like, Sean Penn played the slow man 100%, didn't do anything. Forrest Gump plays the slow man, conquering worlds, win the Medal of Honors, global prize. He was like, never go full. So when I think about radio, man, I'm like, nah, man, you
I
not
stay away from that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to go 100%.
But I know like Radio Flyer with the little wagons, right?
Yeah, man, I can't stand that movie. Man.
Yeah, I liked it.
So then let me pose this to y'all. Are there any children that you remember being great actors? I mean, you love to watch any movie with them, and as they got older, they kind of just fell off. I got one for sure. Yeah. The Home Alone 1, Home Alone 2. I think the other movie was called The Stepson, where he was an adopted son or a stepson or something. And I remember him being evil, and he was trying to kill the real son off to take his place. And they ended up having to drop him off a mountain or something like that. But man, Culkin as a child was a heck of an actor, man. And then as he got older with the lawsuits and things happening with his family, I don't know if y'all know, but his mom and pops spending up all his money. So when he got old enough, it was I'm pretty much broke because y'all spend up all my bread, all this work I'm doing. So he ended up suing them. So the family had a little fallout, but I think they good now. And now he's been coming back in like some shows and stuff. But I always wonder, like, why doesn't he do it Home Alone as the father, and then he leaves his child at home? You know what I mean? Like, how do I do this?
Damn, that's an idea.
You know, and now he's fighting back to get home. And then you still got Joe Pesci. You still got, I wish I could remember his name. I'm going to look it up. But you still got the dude, the other guy that was part of Sticky Bandits. So now they go back to get revenge on him, but he ends up leaving his kid at home. So now he's trying to get back home, and the same two guys that was trying to get him as a child now have to deal with his kid. I think that'll be a dope movie, man. I wonder if nobody ain't sold that yet.
That would be crazy.
It sounds like you in the shower thinking about this,
right?
Man, I'm thinking about stuff all the time.
You write it down. No, hey, just a quick thing on what you said about Macaulay. Like, how you come back from that? Like, from a lawsuit with your mom and dad? That's got to do some psychological like damage permanently, you know?
You know, unfortunately, from the reading and watching a lot of documentaries and stuff, it's not uncommon. When you're to be a child actor, a lot of these children, you know, I hate to touch on stuff like this because it's supposed to be lighthearted and funny, but like I say, everybody got something to learn, everybody got something to teach. We always leave the floor open for honesty. When I do a lot of reading about these child actors and, you know, a lot of reading about these child actresses or singers or entertainers, man, a lot of them deal with molestation in the entertainment business. A lot of them, you know, their parents force them to play in things they don't want to be. Like if you watch the documentary about Janet Jackson, a lot of those songs she was singing in one of those shows she was in, she didn't want to be in. Joe Jackson made her do it. And, you know, her career wasn't going anywhere. And she was like, you know, in order for me to be the woman I want to be, in order for me to, you know, have the type of career I want to have, I had to fire my dad. She had to fire her dad as her manager because he was trying to make her walk down the path in her career she didn't want to go. And realistically, it was the best thing that ever happened to her because once she did that, she was able to start selling records. She started trying to become a sex symbol. Then she was in Poetic Justice and started doing all of these other things. And it was like, a lot of the times, you know, I feel like these parents try to live vicariously through their children as far as the entertainment world. And I feel like I heard them like Drew Barrymore, she was a drunk as a child. A lot of people don't know that. Talks about that, you know. Look at oh man, I just had their names. The Hames, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. And I wish I knew which one I'm gonna say. Corey Feldman is the one who's still with us. And he had put out a whole documentary about pedophilia with children in Hollywood and in the entertainment business. And he even says to this day, the reason why his best friend took his life is because all of the molestation and things that happened to him as a child. And his parents knew about it. That's what they say. You know, I'm not saying that's what it is or anything. So a lot of the times I think,
why does it seem like all the evil is rooted from that, man? It seems like
because innocence is looked for, and
even back in the day,
you know, when you're a child, how you can't really overpower no adult.
Yeah, but what's the attraction of that, bro? I don't know.
I think it's a sickness, bro.
Yeah, it's got to be a sickness for sure.
It's a sickness.
But what? So, John, quick question from what he was talking about. I'm random, so that's something you might have to like work on getting used to. But if you had a choice, if a genie came to your house right now, knocked on the door, and not one of them typical ones, like maybe like an orange one, and like some modern clothing or whatever, and he was chilling, like a nice beard, and he was like, "Look, bro, I don't know why, but I randomly came to your house and
a millennium genie.
Yeah, I gotta change. Yeah, I'm supposed to. I need to like be charitable for my year, you know. So I'm gonna give you the choice to be rich and famous, or to keep things how they are. But you have to go through what these celebrities have went through. It'll restart your life, right? So basically, you'll be born again as like Michael Jackson, right? If you wanted to be like a pop star, or if you wanted to be like every industry, every successor in any industry has like, they went through the wire, bro. Like they've been in and out of water their whole entire time, right? And it's all the same. It just looks different, right? But regardless of what industry you choose to be successful at, you have the choice to go through it, but you have to go through the entire trials, or you can just stay in your life. What would you choose?
Man, that's tough. I mean, to be honest, I would probably stay in my life. Like, I believe when it comes to like affecting change, I believe in the theory of like independent agency, right? So instead of being like rich and famous and I affect 20,000 people for like a concert or for an emotion or for a feeling, I feel that I can have a better impact on being who I need to be for like my family. You know what I mean? And then hopefully those closest to me can be inspired, or I can be inspired by them. And then that kind of grows the seed instead of, you know, people coming up to me at a concert like, I love you. And they don't even know my last name. So I probably choose just being who I am.
Then you'll be
so that being said, then my question to both of y'all is, because you got two kind of celebrities. You have the celebrities that are wealthy, and then you have the celebrities that are famous. So what opens more doors, fame or wealth? In 2022, as a celebrity, Terry, if we blew up in a year and everybody saw us and we going, oh, that's Will and Terry, John, when the seed box blows up in a couple more years, you know, I'm speaking that thing into existence. Yes, sir. What would you prefer to have? Do you think you could get more done and you could get more doors open with wealth? Or do you think in 2022, it isn't about wealth, it's about fame?
I think Chappelle had a quote, which is pretty interesting. He was talking about like being famous versus being wealthy, literally along the same lines. And he said something that was pretty succinct. He was like, I'll take the wealth because when it comes, like, it's just an ebb and flow. I can be wealthy, then I can be poor, or I can be poor, then I can become wealthy, you know, depending on how, like, where my life is. But when you're famous, he's like, you can't become unfamous. You can become infamous, but you can't become unfamous. So I think I'd be thinking about like escape route from fame. I wouldn't want to go down in flames just to become a regular person again. You know what I'm saying? So I'd probably choose wealth, bro.
It seems like most celebrities end up at some point looking for an escape route early in their fame, like, and then they have to get drawn back into it, like if their life, depending on how their life goes. But if they get an out that's healthy, they stay out of it. Yep. I think that's the whole lesson of like in plain sight, is that like too much of anything is bad for you, you know? Because like you got right now, there's like this pandemic of gluttony that everybody's exposing all over the internet. Everybody's like, oh, you're more susceptible to the virus if you're big, you know, overweight and all this. Or then you have the other one of like sleep deprivation and all these different things. But dude, I lost my point. My bad. I was going on, and then I was like, wait a minute, what am I going?
The episode is fame or is it?
Oh yeah, so like but like what it is like anything you pursue, you have to like you want to taste it. It's all about tasting. It's not about, I mean, you get full on it, but it comes with a cost, you know? and it doesn't matter what food. Like if you build a business and then you could get too successful, and then you don't have time for your family. You get all this money, you don't have time to spend it, or something happens, it's so much money you can't manage it anymore. Then you gotta build the beast bigger and bigger to support itself. And that same thing goes to like acting. You could get too famous and not have time to enjoy the whole reason why you got famous in the first place. I don't think that people get famous more so because they want so many people in their business, because that's inevitable. I think that's part of like the sacrifice of fame. I think fame is just being highly known as someone who's useful around the world, like someone who you give them a task and they'll get it done, and they've done it so many times that they've reached a level of like considerability, like. And then but what do celebrities always complain about the most? It's not the money, it's not the opportunities, and that is just the fact that everybody knows who they are and what they're up to. Like, wow. The celebrities complain about what they are, and bodybuilders, they're always sore, and then they get to a point where there's too much muscle, and then now they got to worry about their diets and stuff to like take care of the muscles and all that. And then other things in their life start breaking down because they have to be so self-considerate. So they have to be like on their own, where pay attention to themselves so much they don't have time and energy to give to anything else around them. And so it becomes like a hell for them too, in a sense. But I think it's like the success story. Like I want the success story just so I can know that I'm capable, but I don't want to subside in it for the rest of my life. I think that's what gets people jacked up, is like over like obsession. Yeah.
Well, you guys are both skate. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh no, just real quick. I feel like in 2022, if you're an entertainer, you cannot achieve wealth without fame. I don't feel like the industry will allow it unless you're the creator. So what I mean by that is you can be a James Fauntleroy, you can be a writer and be wealthy. You can be a Stephen King, but I don't think Matthew McConaughey could be Matthew McConaughey without fame. I don't think that Jackie Chan could be Jackie Chan without fame. I don't think that Denzel Washington can be Denzel Washington without the fame, unless they wanted to become the creators. And I feel like if it was up to me, if I was in the entertainment business, I would want the fame, because I feel like with fame comes wealth. A lot of times I feel like with wealth doesn't come fame. And I feel like in 2022, you open more doors being famous than you do with being wealthy, because the wealthy always have to pay. There's always a price for being wealthy, on the back end, on the front end, but at least you know that coming into whatever you're coming into. A lot of the times I feel like with being famous, you know that you're always going to be used, and that's the price. You might not have to pay out of pocket. Hey, excuse me. Hey man, if you come to this event, we'll bring a lot of people here and we'll sponsor you. We'll give you all of these clothes and all of these things. Okay, fine. I don't have to pay, but you're using my likeness. You're using my face. You're using my gift to draw all these people near. Hey man, we want you to be on Louis Vuitton, because if people see you wearing Louis Vuitton, more people in your culture, in your community, will want to buy it from us. Okay, you're using me to sell to that community, which is opening doors for me now to strike other deals with other companies, and more money comes in. But I feel like it would be hard for me because I wouldn't want to pay the price of privacy. And I feel like with fame, you have to give up your privacy. And I walking down the street, and I stumble and I'm on TMZ because I fell off the curb. Or, me and my wife have an argument about what kind of shirts I want to buy. And they're arguing about shirts inside of Target. Are they going broke? Why are they shopping in Target? And I feel like a lot of the times it's really hard to be someone like Keanu Reeves, where he's both famous and wealthy, but he still has such a considerable amount of privacy. Like he still rides the train. He walks up and down the street with everybody. I'm sure his clothes may cost a little more than most people, but he just dresses like a regular guy. He's not out there in like the Armani suits or whatever. He just seems to be such a humble guy. I would wish to be able to have that balance, but being a black man on top of that in the entertainment industry, I feel like you have to be famous in order to be wealthy. It's too many avenues now. You got to make sure you have followers. One, how many followers do you have? That's the first thing I'm looking at. Then, are you marketable? Will you work for my company? I got a company full of rock and rollers and you're a rapper. Why are you trying to be on? We're not able to market you, and then 3, do you have sex appeal? Because everything is about sex now. So how can we make you sexy? What about you catches the opposite sex or maybe the same sex eye, So I think a lot of things come into it. The only time I feel like the wealthy wins is when they're the ones putting the money for it because they know they're going to get a bigger return at the end, Yeah. So that's my little take on it. Go ahead, John. I know you was going to ask a question.
I was just curious, like you guys both being like skaters, like I don't know this world at all, but something that's always fascinated me, story-wise with like fame and wealth. What happened with like Terry Kennedy? Like what was his situation? Because it seemed like the skating world gave him like everything. And like I don't know how did that fall apart? I know you guys are both smiling, so I know you guys know something.
Well, that's
we're loosely speaking on this, by the way.
Yeah, that's close to home for me, so I don't have like much to invest into that besides the fact that like he never found his direction, not even through skateboarding. Like it was something to keep his mind occupied, but he was never as focused as much as he could have been on skateboards.
I agree.
He has so many opportunities, and though he took a lot, that guy was good. He was really good, and his progression was insane. Like from one part to the next, I was just like, this guy, he was around the right people that helped him like progress so much. But he still had other influences around him that kept him from like peaking out and like reaching a higher level of success in skateboarding. And we have other friends in our groups that had the same type of situation, but he was more. I think that something about it wasn't fulfilling for him because he even made it to like Viva La Bam. He was on TV. They used to call him Compton Ass Terry.
Even though he's from Long Beach, and I never understood that.
It's because they didn't know much. They were just giving him. I would have expected that's on him because he could have been like, hey, like you know where I'm from. But that all that stuff, and it kind of threw me for a blast too when I saw that he kind of just fell off for a long time. And then I would see like he started to get back into it, and then he kept getting caught up in other things. But yeah, I see what you mean. Like he seemed like he was gonna be in there for the long haul.
Yep.
Right. And then he just fell off.
He was even dating Russell Simmons' daughter.
Oh snap, dude. Yeah.
Oh wow. Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, that dude was I just think that it was something that he was looking for that he didn't find it in there. And so he just veered off.
I got a different outlook on it. One, I'm gonna say this. He's a perfect example of if you're famous, doors open and then you can generate wealth. Because he became famous from the Jackass crew. He became famous from basically being close to Bam Margera. Element skateboarding, Van shoes. Then, I'm not mistaken, he was on Ice Cream with Pharrell for a little while.
Yeah.
But what I believe is he's the prime example of in order to grow into one thing, you have to grow out of another thing. So what I mean by that is sometimes we want to have a certain stature or we want to accomplish something, but we want to keep an old mindset. And I think that's what destroyed him because he kept a hood mindset around people who I ain't going to say they necessarily were like blue collar people, but Johnny Knoxville is business first. They'll play and they'll do all of that other stuff, but they're playing while getting paid. You know what I mean? And I feel like Terry Kennedy we see it with a lot of skaters we know. Let's take Terry Kennedy out of it. A lot of people I know who can be pro the people that they hang around and the company they keep will never allow them to reach their fullest potential.
How many times have we watched that play out, Will? Many times so where we're like, man, bro is about to be epic as he about to make it. And
we've actually, as the, what are we now? We like the elders, right? That we talked about on the last episode. But as like the OGs of the park or of our little crew or whatever, we pull people to the side and like, man, what you doing out here smoking, man? You throwing your talent away, man. These guys been coming here for 10 years doing the same thing. You want to be a part of these guys? And we see so many people, like I say all the time, people become a product of the environment, when I really believe that the environment should be a product of people. We can change our environment, you know, but when I saw TK, I saw somebody who had every opportunity to make it, but the people he kept around him, even like his last manager was like a shady dude. So it was just like, and if you don't know what happened with him, he ended up allegedly, I'm saying allegedly, he ended up having an altercation with somebody who he had been around before. And from what I read, he hit the guy in the head with the skateboard, with the trucks, the metal part of the skateboard, and the guy ended up losing his life. So he ended up going to jail for that. But then again, it's like the company you keep. Like his manager was, and I have not, well, honestly, you know, I don't support weed or none of that. That's just me. But his manager was trying to push his weed business. And it was pretty much like, I'll be your manager. From what I saw, allegedly, from what I saw, his manager was using TK to push his agenda. You know what I mean? It's like, I got TK, I'm managing him, this famous skateboarder guy. And I'm going to use that to my advantage to really push myself and not really look out for TK. I mean, TK was still hanging out with gangsters. He would get on his live and he'll be high and he'll be banging on people. And I think he had some mental issues, some mental demons he was battling, like Terry said. And then I think it was just a matter of the company he keeps. But this is why I'm saying, like, in order to have wealth, you have to be famous, because there's so many other Black skaters who get overlooked. You got Anthony Williams, you got Aquil Brad, right? Keelan Dad was on his way, but then he had his little altercation. You got Daryl Staten. You have all of these Black skaters who are really good. You got Terrell Robinson. And it's like, these guys, in my opinion, and this is no knock to TK, they better than TK. They better than me, especially Anthony Williams. I think is one of the most stylish professional Black skaters out there. But you say, who is he? You know what I mean? Is he marketable? I ain't never heard of him. Everybody know who P-Rod is. But do you know who he is because of his skateboarding, or do you know who he is because of his fame? Everybody know who Tony Hawk is, right? Tony Hawk. But you know who Tony Hawk is because he's famous. Do you know who Raleigh Hawk is? No, Raleigh Hawk is his son. He a hell of a professional skateboarder too. You ask me,
Baker, right?
Baker. Yeah, you ask me, he better than his pops, but he a street skater.
Yeah, street he is, not on.
Yeah, he just don't have the fame. So it's one of those things again where, like, can you even deal with that level of fame? You know, I think like somebody like Kanye West, wealthy and famous, but it seems like fame will cause certain people certain mental stress. And then you ask yourself, is it even really worth it? Yeah. You know, is it even really worth it? If I can't be genuinely happy, like Terry said, if I can't just be happy within at the end of the day, is it worth it? You know, but I just don't think they'll let you be famous and not wealthy, or vice versa in entertainment.
You know, it's crazy as perception too, because like Kanye is he's my top favorite producer outside of Mike Will Made It, right? But he was the first one that I was just like, he made this and he spit a hard ass verse on it like this. Wow, right? So, and then like how many people gave him his flowers over the years of like, I didn't even know he was in charge of their stuff. Like even like, you know, like DJ Mustard, all these different people that they had they were here, their peak was here, like their top off of talent was here, and they were riding their careers here until they got to work in the studio with Kanye, and then it was just like they're this whole other epic beast, and they give them like passionate flowers, like it's literally because of working with this guy, you know. And so that stuff, but seeing his mental breakdowns over time, But if you look past all that and all this stuff that everybody's writing about this dude being like losing his mind and all that, who wouldn't lose their mind dealing with that amount of success with that amount of people hating on you? Who wouldn't lose their mind? First off. And then second off, look how much he still accomplishes. This dude just released another album. And then I listened to Donda. That was tight. And I listened to his Christian album. That was tight. And I listened to the album before that. That was tight. And I'm like, okay, so he's dealing with bipolar, and some people were saying like he's bipolar schizophrenic and all this stuff. And then the massive divorce with his baby mom, and then having beautiful kids, and then managing that to where they're like happy and healthy, and then still inspiring other artists to work with him and be around him, and people still looking for advice from him and things like that. And it's like, is he actually going crazy? Or is it that people are trying to shut him down because they see how much he's worth and how incredibly powerful just saying Kanye with your project is? Like, even if Kanye just said, if he could literally be like, I approve of this album cover. That person who he says that to on his Twitter, if he puts the tag of their album, it's gonna add, like, it's gonna multiply. It's gonna be like GTA when you get that code in and your money starts doing and green. Just hearing Kanye's name, you just know talent, creativity, and dependable. He gets things done, right? But then on the other side of that, it's like he'd be like his long speeches about, man, it's about the kids and all these like rants, and then him saying things that he shouldn't have said and all that. It's like, what part of him do you choose? Or do you just accept the whole thing and be like, damn, that dude's, how do you look at it? You know, it's like, is he actually, would you consider him still being successful, a successful famous person? Or would you consider him at this point someone who's blowing it slowly? That's what I want to know, because I get people that are like, Kanye's crazy and this and that. And it's like, how much of Kanye do you know? And most people are like, I know about this and about that. And you're telling me, who's followed most of their career, you know?
I guess we talking about music, movies, and books, because this just got into music. But I'm glad. No,
it's not music.
No. I'm glad you brought it up, because I want to add something on, because I forgot to mention too, John used to be a producer, and he has his own YouTube page, Above the Influence, where he does reaction videos on artists, and he getting like 10, 20,000 views. So I'm glad you asking about the music, because how do you know, John? How do you gauge, like, this is the one that I'm going to talk about? This is the one that the people are listening to, because you're not just in one vein. I've seen you do stuff from Steely Dan to the Bee Gees to like Outkast. So how do you gauge music and talent in something that the people will be receptive to? Because like he said, people do all this talking about Kanye West, but people still buying Kanye West. And I'm going to steal a quote that you told me a long time ago, John. I think to be considered normal in the society of today's people is an insult, because today's normal is yesterday's crazy. So to be considered weird, to be considered awkward, to be considered crazy is almost a compliment, because that means I don't fit in with any other people around. And that's something you told me, John. So what do you feel on this whole music thing? How do you gauge being a producer, being somebody who does reaction videos and always getting thousands of views when you do them? How do you gauge that?
So number one, I guess speaking on like the Kanye West thing, like, it's hard to tell a guy that's winning at that level that like you need to switch it up. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people tell, like, put it like this, like, if you're going to win in the NBA, you're probably going to roll with a couple workhorses like Kobe, Jordan, right? You're going to have to deal with that guy being like a jerk, you know what I mean? Or it may not be buddy, but that's a part of winning. I just don't think that enough people in life, you know, like, when I told Will this the other day, the thing I respect about skaters so much is that you guys are always constantly betting on yourself. You guys are always constantly going up against fear, second judgments, whatever the case may be. People on average don't face that, especially not as much as somebody on a skateboard trying to go down a ramp who's never done it for, you know, over and over, and the commitment that comes with that. So I think it's more so that they look at a guy like Kanye West as like an oddity just because they have never bet on themselves. A friend of mine once asked him, was like, I want to succeed at this, but like, I don't want people to think I'm an a-hole. And I'm like, well, the second that you start standing on your truth, that's going to automatically happen. So if that's what's stopping you, you stopping yourself at this point. So whether he needs to change or not, to be honest, I don't know if I had to go with the advice of a million people who haven't really done much in life, not even just saying to be a billionaire, but just haven't bet on themselves, I go with the one guy who bet on himself. And if he said do X, Y, and Z, I ain't gonna lie, bro, I'm rolling. But
like everybody likes Steve Jobs, right? But wasn't he like really bad people's person, right?
Come on,
and he
bro.
died with that title, right? But there's still kids that will go to college and really try to be this guy, right?
Facts.
But it's like I've heard about narcissism. I get a lot of people that talk about narcissistic, like people become narcissists over time, like when they reach certain levels of success, and it's like, how can you not? You
Right.
have to believe in yourself to the level that most people won't understand unless they get out there and try it, right? So all these
I'm gonna add
people.
something before you go further. I think the problem is not belief in self. I think the problem is that people don't understand that me believing in me doesn't mean that I'm putting you down or don't believe in you. That's where I think people come in with the narcissistic talk. I've never heard you, Terry, talk good about yourself, but put somebody else down to make you higher.
Yeah. But so with that, but like, if you go to like, say for instance, if you were on a set with Quentin Tarantino, right? Imagine the situation when he was making the Django. Oh, excuse me, Django, the D is silent. Imagine I would have got punched at that bar. But imagine the stuff that he went through. How many people were opposed to that idea? How many people were and then he had someone who was iconic from the African American community, and we look at him like there's nobody else better to pick to run.
But you know what's so ironic about that, Terry? I'm sorry, I gotta say this. I believe the reason people fought it and the reason why people, and I think people use the N-word. I'm saying that because I don't want us to get flagged, but I think people use, well, look at how many times he said the N-word. I don't think that's what it is. I think that society just didn't want to see a black man stand up against a racist society as far as in the form of a superhero, because nobody fought Roots. You know what I mean? Nobody fought Birth of a Nation. Nobody fights the movies where it's historically correct. You can be called that word a million times in a movie where, prime example, what's the lady, I'm pulling a blank because I'm emotional, but the lady who did the Underground Railroad. Harriet Tubman, like, we gonna see a million movies about her, right? Because ain't nobody getting shot, ain't nobody getting murdered. But how many movies have we seen where we hanging from trees like Rosewoods? How many movies have we saw where we getting our backs beaten and battered? And,
it's trash, dude. Like, what's that one? 12 Years a Slave. That was hard to watch. I'm like,
bro.
Man,
like when he left him outside overnight. When he left him on the tree overnight, and all the other people were just watching him standing around because if they touched him or anything, that was a wrap, right? And he was in the mud. Like, I was like, in my head watching that, I was just like, I felt like crap watching it. I was like, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with this. Because if I was there, I dang sure would have been like, hey, we about to attack any second, bro. Like when he was stitching him up there, because he clearly wasn't about that. He was intellectually inclined with his owner. He's like, it's like when like on Django, and he was like, do I sound like a fucking slave to you? It's the same thing on there. They all knew he wasn't normal. They're like, yeah, you could read all that, and so many signs, but they never invested in trying to like figure out how he got mixed up in that. They were just like, oh, I got a smart slave, but his
homie sold him. His own homie sold him out.
Yeah, so it's like but that movie didn't get a much lash because there was no hero perspective in there. You know what I mean?
No,
But
you
like,
know what it was? That the hero wasn't a black man revolting against white men. The hero was Brad Pitt.
oh, he brought the pardon papers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brad Pitt's the homie though. I like that guy. But look, the thing is, like, for that, and it was because it kind of saved a little bit of face, right? It was like, oh, there is hope from that side of the tracks to like see the wronginess, but he only brought one set of papers. It's not like he uplifted old girl who was getting, you know, sexually abused or any of that.
For some
And
soap,
like,
beat
huh?
for some soap. She got beat because she went to get some soap.
Yeah,
Cleaner.
all that. It
And
wasn't
thought
he
she was
taking
sleeping
it.
with the
He was taking
slave owner.
advantage. Nah, he was out there
Yeah, he
taking
thought she
advantage
was
of her
sleeping
too.
with the other slave owner.
Yeah, so that, like, all that was crazy. But then when Django come out, he went over to like, he was like, yeah, right over there, that's Smitty McCall. That's Smitty McCall Jr. right there. And he got that whip and started cracking, you know? He could have grabbed the gun, you know, or something like that. But I think it was like the more of like the battle type of thing. Like people were just like, oh, no. This is because like the violence brought the attention. If that
They
violence
called the
from
movie
them
racist,
to
bro.
them. You know?
They were calling the movie racist from the stance of a slave. Like, it's a racist movie against white people. It just didn't make sense to me.
You know that part where he was like, what did he when he gave him the after he blew his homies up with the dynamite, and he was like, what do you want, black or whatever? You know he I feel like he made that scene on purpose because he wanted to touch as close as he could to like exposing the word and he could. But then when you hear the interviews afterwards, he had a whole nother thing. Besides, I feel like if he had raw intentions, like he would have got punched before even making that movie. Look at the cast he was working with. It would have been on the news like Quentin Tarantino during the set of this movie was stomped out and pulled snatched off the set.
But you know, Quentin Tarantino, he's gonna go all the way to the edge of extreme and jump off. That's his MO, from Dusk Till Dawn to Pulp Fiction to Reservoir Dogs to 12.
But Steve, because
Django.
The reason why he gets over that stuff, to your point, sorry, I was going on the movie, but to get to answering your question, is that they know what his finished product is, his end product is, right? And he satisfies people to the point where they'll let certain things pass. They won't look at certain things a certain way because they want the outcome anyway, right? It's like certain people, even especially in the 90s, like if you go back and watch certain movies, man, it's like, how did they get away with saying this stuff or having these things in movies? You know, it was just ridiculous. But nowadays, like most of the 90s movies wouldn't have been able to be made. Most of those people would have got canceled immediately, right?
Especially with the Me Too movements and the LGBT plus community.
I hope it's a phase, bro. Honestly, I hope it's a phase because people need to be more to have more an understanding of communication. Like, you should be able to get your frustrations off just as much as you're able to get your happy thoughts off too, right? And you should be able to communicate like the things that your belief systems and all that. But like it's a control thing that's going on right now. Like, if you say this, you're not having this interview. Understand that before I hit the record button, right? And they saw and that worked a couple of times.
Directly. I was like, what am I not supposed to say?
Like, you guys, right? No, but like, but some people got that card, you know, and it's not just the black card. It's card and different. You get canceled for saying things towards any race, you know. But like, and there's racist things to be said towards everybody and views and all that. It's not just to one race, but if like some comedians can literally get on stage and completely make a mockery of like of our culture, and they'll be fine because they got a couple of black homies that like vouch for them or this and that. Like even Joe Rogan invited a couple of guys right after this whole situation and had like a cool conversation with them. And they were saying uncomfortable stuff back and forth to each other and showing that it's okay. They could still be civilized, right? But that's because, I mean, it's different when your bills are paid. It's different when you live where in a safe community where your kids don't have to like, but you don't have to worry about your kids showing up on the news from gunshots and things like this. When you've had a certain amount of success, certain things don't hit you the same, you know? And it's like I see a lot of African American successful guys, you know, that reconnect with their fathers after so many years, and their dads are like just walking around, just living, you know, and it's like, where the heck was you at? You know, he did this by himself and all this, and they're like, oh yeah, I just had to fix this. Like you see it with Kevin Hart, you see it with even like Drake has his dad, you know, different people, and it's like, if they didn't make that amount of success, if they didn't see their dreams play out like that, would they have had it in their heart to be as forgiving? And that same thing goes, like, celebrities are always going to forgive each other. How many rap beefs have you seen? I said it I said it years ago that Drake and Meek were going to have a song together eventually. You know what I mean? Like, it's all fake. They see that it gets the money. They see it gets the attention, right?
Yeah.
But they don't realize I'm pretty sure it's realized, but like the people that aren't celebrities, that are wealthy and this and that, the critics, they're not in that same space. And look what happened to Biggie and Tupac. You know what I mean? It's like, you could say stuff on TV, you could be a certain way, but then when you come home, when you go into these areas, these people like look at these podcasts and these opinions and these movies as real life. I remember as a teenager in high school, we took certain movies literal. You know what I mean? And like wore the style and talked like them and made decisions trying to be like them and stuff. And then we will fight for that. We were like, man, why you faking, bro? You saw that mug on him. It's like, watch out, bro. Like, don't disrespect my flag over here. Go that way. And it's like, and then you go home and you take it off and you're back to this guy again, right? When you're wearing that coat for that whole day. And it's like, so when you reach, I feel like you could reach a certain amount of fame, and I think it makes certain people want that to reach that because it makes things seem safer and easier for them. You know, like, how many times have you come up with ideas? You just came up with a plot that was like, if I had the money, I would have invested in that, right? But you'd have to be because you're not up here and trusted. You know, you're not like one of these movie producers who've been around and they trust his ideas. You'd have to be real critical on the details on what you say and what happens in that movie and stuff, you know? So in order to get past that, in order to get through that, you have to go through these bumps that will get you to where you're at. You have to take the losses. You have to cut certain vital details to your point out of your talks and out of your movies, out of your materials. But then once you get to this point, you reach this level and then you start saying, I'm going to try this again. Maybe now people see that I'm not what they thought I'm not like this guy or that guy, and they see who I am. I'm going to try this and I'll make this movie. And then the feedback comes back and you're like, okay, that went okay. So now I'm going to get a little bit more, right? But the amount of stuff you have to go through to get there, the only I guess the point I'm trying to make is you have to force people, you have to convince people that your ideas and you were trustworthy. So that builds you to be like narcissistic. Like, it's inevitable, right? You can't trust someone else's ideas next to you. It has to be your way because you want to get that title over you that it's.
But I don't like that word. I don't think it's being narcissistic. It's just being confident. And I think so many people are, what is the word I'm looking for? They feel threatened, or they're so afraid of the next person's confidence because maybe they don't have it, or maybe they like confidence in the area.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because narcissists, they don't believe that. They believe that it's like their way is the only thing, like their way works better than other people's, you know? And it's like, if you weren't that way, like if Jordan wasn't that way, would his team would have made it as far when he literally was like running the coaching for if you watch the documentary, he talks about it, and he talks about the flaws of being like that too. Like he punched, he got into fights with his own team members and stuff. And he had like hard times like with people around him for being that way, but it's like he only wanted the good for them, but he had to communicate it a different way. He couldn't just expose like, hey, I'm just trying to help you guys make it, because he felt like that wasn't, if they saw that level, if they saw that he can come down to that to being that rational, then they would use that and find loopholes to get out of being so hard on themselves. So you have to keep that pressure. It's like the army. They keep that pressure on you, but if somebody was shooting at you, they'll pull out and help you. But most people are going to hate their sergeant because he's going to talk crap to them the whole time. Right? So that's what I was trying to say, is the point of like, when you reach, it's not just for Kanye, it's for anybody up. If I'm going to sit and have a conversation with Jay-Z, I'm not going to expect him to trust any of my ideas. He's not going to just invest in my ideas, and I'm going to expect him to like cut me off and be like, well, let me show you how to do this idea the right way. I'm not going to go to him and be like, look, this is how it's going to be and this and that. Right. And then if I did go in there like that, I would expect him to be like, you know who I am? You know what I mean?
All right, you ain't said much, man. I know we going back and forth. This is what we do. What you got? I know your mind. You a thinker, so I know your mind going. What you got for us?
Nah, I love it, dude. I was taking it all in, especially when you guys were kind of on that Django conversation. I'll play like devil's advocate. And the only reason why I say this is because like the people who I know who like had a problem with that said,
man, look at this. I didn't even realize.
It's an intense conversation. but like it's interesting because like when it comes to like Django, the only thing that I had a problem with, I'll say myself, is that it was like satire, right? And the reason why like I was have a problem with it because like you can say like every other like tragedy throughout history, like we don't really give it like levity or like satire to make sort of a funny movie out of it, quote unquote. But then somebody could say, well, they came up with like Glorious Bastards and that has to do with like World War II. And I'm like, well, the difference between the two is that World War II had like a resolution. You know what I mean? Like those people were like compensated with like funds, money, land, you know what I mean? And that was kind of the resolution to it. To a lot of people, like, when you're young and you're going through something traumatic and you'd be like, man, we're going to look back on this and laugh. If you're still going through it, there's no comedy attached to it. You have to have a resolution to be like, let's look back on that and laugh. For a lot of people, at least, we're all African American. A lot of that stuff, there was no resolution on like slavery. You know what I'm saying? There was no resolution on like Black oppression or, different things like that. So, don't get me wrong. I thought it was a good movie. It was a cool movie. It's just part of me feel like my people are still in it. So it was kind of hard to be like, to find the comedy. I couldn't watch that twice. So like you said, that scene when he was hanging and was like, had his toes in the mud.
Yeah.
Bro, I couldn't. I saw people get out of the theater. 12 Years a Slave, yeah. Bro, I saw people leave the theater on that part. Like, what is going on? So I'm right with you, Terry, bro.
Some stuff is unnecessary because it's one thing to make that like of the situation that to let it be known that it happened. It's another thing to it's the same thing like even in like what's the Passions of Christ movie where they showed the entire situation, like unnecessary.
I got something to say on that one, so I'll wait.
That's real.
Go ahead.
It's like people like you shouldn't have to explain so crazy on that. You know what I mean? Like certain things should, I mean, to know somebody went through that, that should, just to hear that it happened is enough to be like, okay, respect that experience, you know, and try not to let it happen again. And like have some, and like, you know, have some consideration that that's a real event and people really did suffer from that. You know, it's like even right now with the whole war going on and stuff, I hear like comedians on podcasts and stuff making jokes about it. Like, oh, would you this with Russia or this in Ukraine and this and that? It's like, you know, people are getting blown up right now. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if a bomb just hit us while we're making this podcast, and then like 3 days from now, we're listening to in our little safe zones or whatever, and we're listening to our podcast, and then like people are like, "Oh, imagine if this," and making jokes of it, and it's like, that's insane, you know. So it depends. There's a barrier like between like
it's not satirical when you still going through it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a barrier from entertainment and like information. Like, what was the some things you can't mix. Can't mix entertainment with certain information. It's like, what was the whole point of this movie? Were you trying to like keep the awareness there to keep people angry? Or were you trying to like keep the awareness there to like avoid this situation happening again? Or were you just trying to make a bunch of people, you know, like invest time in your movie for money? Or like what is it that what was the point of that movie? That's what I don't get.
Well, a lot of people try to like go along the lines of like you said, the passion of the Christ. People need, it's either two things are going to happen with a person. Either you're going to see something traumatic and you're going to turn up the theatrics and to show Jesus getting the life kicked out of him, or someone should be able to turn up their empathy and their compassion. You know what I mean? But it's so, we live in a culture where like, it's hard for people to go inside themselves to be like, I'm going to turn up my compassion and empathy. Now they're just like, oh, she got raped. Okay, that's cool. All right, they don't like that. She got raped and beaten. Okay, that's cool. Matter of fact, let me show you how she got raped. And it's like, why are we turning up our theatrics when we should be turning up our compassion and empathy?
I believe that we don't show enough. Being Christian, as I'm sure we all believers, but I'm Christian, what we saw on TV is nothing compared to what really happened. We got to see an hour, not even an hour, we got to see 20 minutes of something that happened over the course of hours. What we saw on TV is, we would all want to go through that compared to going through the real crucifixion. We would beg for that passion of the Christ crucifixion if we had to suffer the real crucifixion. When it comes to the man with his toes in the dirt, I hope that they make an Emmett Till movie and they show the beating, because we are a society that and it sucks because faith is believing in the thing that you can't see. Faith is the evidence of things hoped for and not yet seen. So you can say, I'm gonna gain muscle. I believe it. I see it in my head. I'm gonna get buff. But then when you have to deal with the faith of something that happened, well, I wasn't a slave, but I just have to have faith that the slaves went through what they said they went through. And I think a lot of the times when we hear things and when we read things, we're able to just write them off. It's like John said, what the problem is with our generation is that we move in apathy. We don't move in empathy. So I think a lot of the times we're apathetic, but when it comes to showing empathy and being empathetic, we lack it. So I feel like a lot of people need that shock value. You know, I don't think they showed enough of what happened in Passion of the Christ. I don't think when it came to that guy's toes being in the dirt, I think that was not, it hurt, but I bet you it hurt for the guys whose toes were really in the dirt. You know, I feel like we are getting to a place where it has to be taken there, is because what we're seeing in real life. I mean, we watched a man literally cry. Okay, maybe he was high, whatever. But the man said a million times, hey, I'm claustrophobic. I am just afraid of tight spaces. Could you please take me out of this car? I'm not going to run. I'm not going to fight you. And they took the man out the car, and his first words were, thank you. How does a thank you go to a knee in the neck, to I can't breathe, to a man laying on the ground crying, asking for his mama. And we ain't talking about that. That's not enough. We sitting here talking about an actor whose toes were in the dirt, who's acting something that really happened to somebody. We live in a society where people will be more mad about watching a movie about Trayvon Martin being murdered than the actual Trayvon Martin being murdered. So I feel like our problem is we don't want to see the things that are uncomfortable to us, because then we have to have a certain level of accountability to make things change. And the truth is, a lot of us aren't change agents. A lot of us just want to sweep stuff under the rug. We'll protest. We'll put a hashtag, but we're not trying to get out there and get dirty. We wouldn't have survived the times of Malcolm X. We wouldn't have survived the times of Martin Luther King. We couldn't have been Black Panthers because we ain't about doing the work. It's easy now to just put a hashtag on social media and feel like you did something. It's easy to repost my homie Terry getting beat up and we don't stand for this violence no more. But it's hard to get out there and lock hands with him. Somebody like my son, the general, I have nothing but respect for, because that man is out there in the trenches. Do I agree with everything he says? No, but I respect him because he's in the trenches. Somebody like Umar Johnson, do I believe in all of the things he says and all of his ways? No, but he's out there. And we live in a society where people will sit and talk about the person for being out there, knowing that they're never going to get out there. Then when Terry was talking about narcissism, I don't believe believing in yourself is a form of narcissism. I believe a narcissist is somebody who's just all about them and nobody else matters. I think the problem that we have in our community, I'm gonna speak on the Black community, the problem that we have is we don't know how to receive critique. We don't know how to differentiate constructive criticism from hating. Anytime somebody doesn't believe in what we believe in, if somebody says your book is good, but you misspelled a lot of words, go back and fix those words you misspelled. Oh, you a hater. Hey man, you did 12 songs, only 3 of them are good. Oh, that nigga hating on me. He don't like my stuff. Or, hey, you got a good idea for a movie, but I don't think I actually like the idea of the movie, and there's plenty of people and actors and directors who talk about like Twilight, I believe. She had to pitch that so many times before the movie got bought, and look, it's one of the best movies ever. And just like I wish I remember, I was listening to an interview and the guy was talking about a movie and everybody kept saying that they did not like the ending. And he had to go back and rewrite the ending, because in the end of the movie, whatever it was, the person died. And people were saying, like, I like the movie, but nobody's going to want to come and see a movie and root for this character. And then at the end of the movie, he dies. I'll give you the money to make the movie, but you have to let the character live. And he understood these, like Terry said, Jay-Z is here, even though I'm not a fan of Jay-Z. Jay-Z is here, and I am trying to get here. Jay-Z is, if I have to have enough discernment, wisdom, education, intelligence, whatever word you want to throw in there, I'm going to say discernment. I have to have enough discernment to know that I'm not being hated on, I'm being critiqued. And we don't respect, nor do we appreciate the value of critique. A lot of times we feel like if it ain't the way I want it to be, if you don't like it the way I sung it, if you don't like it the way I arranged it, if you don't like it the way I wrote it, if you don't like this tattoo that I drew up and you said you wanted an eagle and this took me 3 hours, yeah, man, but I don't like that one. Can you draw it again? And the one you drew in 20 minutes, he's like, that's the one I want. A lot of the times we'll come from the perspective of, why do they like this little raggedy thing that I did overnight? And I put my whole heart, effort, and everything into this 3-hour portrait, And I feel like we fall short so much, especially as men, because a lot of the times we're afraid to critique each other because we don't want an argument. We don't want to fight. We don't want to tell you that, hey, you know what? I love the seed box, but this affirmation doesn't make any sense. Hey, that last podcast, you guys kind of left too much open space. Hey, you know what? You're in the gym, you're working out, but your form is off. And, because we feel like somebody's going to say something, somebody's going to have an attitude. So we live in a society where people will watch you do something 100% wrong, kind of like Mr. Edwards said, because they're afraid of the reaction they'll get from you if they try and correct you or tell you to try something another way. So no, I don't believe being an inventor or being inventive or having a dream or having a goal that you believe in makes you a narcissist. And I do believe that we are going to go deeper. Like what we're seeing in movies now is not going to be anything like pedophilia. It's to the point now where they're literally trying to add pedophilia to the LGBTQ community. That's sick, but it's our fault. You know why? Because we've pushed that thing to the back so much. When these celebrities have come out and tried to talk about, the things that happened to them, it was laughed at. It was, oh, they crazy. John, my story. The loved ones that I have who had things like that happen. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. So now we got to put the elephant right here in the middle so that nobody can ignore that this thing we have to talk about, because what hit dogs do? They holler. And for a long time, we've been letting that dog holler. And eventually, if you hit a dog so much, he start nibbling at you. And then eventually he gonna stand his ground and start biting. We are at the point in entertainment where the dogs are biting, and we deserve it. I hope it gets worse, because it's what we need. I hope they start showing movies with slavery where they whip and you see how a slave back opened up. I hope they start showing the rape scenes when 13, 14-year-old slave girls is in there and they dad can't do nothing but let the master come in there and sleep with their daughters. I hope they show how long hangings really take, because a hanging don't take 30 seconds. You have to hang for some time, and you better pray your neck break if we're talking scientific hangings, because we've literally become too
desensitized.
I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna let it go. We've become so desensitized that we can watch somebody being murdered live and scroll past it.
Yeah.
We won't even call the police. We can see somebody being stabbed up in the street. I'm not saying run over there and help, but you have a phone and people will hit the record button on the phone and yell out World Star, watching somebody be murdered. So they can post it for views and likes, then call 911 first. I'm not even saying don't record it. Call the police first. So yeah, we going there. And we going there with gasoline draws on, and we gonna burn. And I just feel like
that's the whole point, is like how you saying to expose more, but will it even actually work? Look how much we're exposed to already. You know what I mean? Like if you go on World Star for 15 minutes, like I don't see how it doesn't make people insecure about just to walk to the store. Like I got stuck on World Star for a good while, for a couple of years, and I remember like every time
I still like to watch the fights, but I don't want to see nobody get murdered.
Yeah, those are the ones, the fight compilations, right? But like I remember like going to band practice in Compton and like having to stop at the gas station was a situation for me, because I had just finished watching World Star fight compilation number 158 or some crap like that.
Dang.
And then like I have to stop at the gas station, and I'm like, I get out, and then these dudes get out of their car and they're walking, and we lock eyes or something. And I'm just like, all I could picture in my head was, man, imagine if this popped off right now. Who would film this? Would I be that dude on the floor with my shirt on, like, sleep on the floor and stuff? Or will I be the one over him, like, want me to stump your head? Like, my thoughts were so jacked up, right? But also, I had watched this so much that I felt like, too, being a part of it wasn't like I was like, let me avoid this gas station, let me avoid all this and all that. I was just like accepting of it, like, damn, this might happen here. Oh well, like I'm gonna still go get my stuff, I'm gonna still pick gas, I'm gonna still go to band practice, all that. And it's like, no, it's not acceptable. All that behavior is ridiculous, dude. It's embarrassing. And it just exposed like how not together our society really is. Like, and also like I watched videos where like women be fighting in the street and then one of the friends will jump in the car and run over everybody just to get them out of the scene and all that, right? How many people have you seen protest World Star? You know what I mean? But if the news,
we don't want to be accountable for what we do. That's what I'm saying.
well, it's not just that. Like, well,
we don't
I mean that too, all of us, but we as in, because my community was like multicolored, you know what I mean? So like, I'm not just gonna say, I don't just stereotype like a color. I stereotype a people, because where I was from, we even had like white dudes, you know what I mean? Like banging, face tattoos, slanging, all that stuff. We had Indians, we had Mexicans, we got blacks, we got all of them, right? And then just, but with all that being exposed, nobody's, I haven't seen any news feeds about people trying to get rid of World Star. I never seen any of that stuff, and people still praise it, and people still post their stuff on there as like a reliable like advertisement source and all that. But if the same fight compilation hit the news, the person who presents it on that news channel is gonna get hit and canceled, and then that news company is gonna get hit and canceled. And then that TV company is going to get hit and canceled. But certain platforms, even like on Instagram, there's crap on Instagram. I see some of the worst stuff. Even if you want to go to like, look where our pranks went to. Pranks used to be like popping the water, like the water challenges, and like pranking like your dad or the dog in the house by setting like a fake bone and he comes and chews it and everybody's laughing. Now it's like, your prank doesn't matter unless you get punched in the face.
Man.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I seen one where this dude was like pretending to be rob his friend at an ATM. And then these innocent bystanders just run over there and one dude cracks him in the mouth and is like busted his cheek open. And he was like, "It's a prank, dog, it's a prank."
What?
I was like, "That's not a prank. It's not a prank, bro. You were literally fake robbing your friend in public. What did you expect was going to happen? You could have thrown a water balloon at his back. That would have been a funny prank. You know what I mean? He would be like, "Bro, my money." We would all laugh. But instead, you want to go to those depths. Or like have you seen the ones where it's like run, and it's like the fake bomb threat? That's not funny at all. Dude dressing up like in the turban and all that, and then like dropping a suitcase.
It's offensive to the people to Muslims and people who wear turbans.
Yeah, that's crazy. It was never funny to me, that stuff. And it's like where we've come to for entertainment is ridiculous.
Yep.
It's completely unacceptable, dude. I know I'm getting older. I admit that. I'm aware of that. And I remember when I was younger, my grandpa and my uncles would be like, "What are you watching that crap?" You know what I mean? Even I had some older cousins that'd be like, "Why are you playing Grand Theft Auto? That's full of trash, man." You know, stuff like that. And I'd be like, "You just suck at it. That's why, bro. Like, look at this car, you know?" Or like, I'm like, "You just don't watch, you don't understand." I try to defend these characters and stuff. But when it comes down to it, I think we've went through enough in our life now that we understand what those situations actually offer. And as kids, we didn't know. So we were just like, "Oh, it's fun, man. You drive up on the sidewalk and run over a bunch of people and get your multiplier up, get out the car, run back and get all them little stacks of money. And then now you go to the ammunition store and get you a vest. Now you can go take on the next thing, right?" But how many kids see that and actually like learn techniques? You know what I mean? How many?
I don't believe people learn stuff. I think it's in you. I don't think that you watch a movie and you go, "I want to shoot somebody in the head." I think those things are in you. And
you don't believe that. You don't believe that Menace to Society was like, you know what I mean?
I believe Menace to Society was formed from a reality. It was
formed I know where it's formed from.
But I don't think any gangster watched Menace to Society was like, "I want to go kill that nigga." If it was in him, I think it was in him. I think it's the same as in John. I'm gonna let you speak because you got some stuff. I think it's the same as somebody who says, "I did it because I was drunk." No, you got drunk to do what you wanted to do in the first place. That could be me. That's just
you,
my
because honestly, you get pulled to these situations. Nobody's just born and
but
no one comes out of their mom is like, I'm gonna go do a massacre.
Absolutely,
right?
But you make the decision. It's like Edward said, some people do the wrong things for the right reasons, but at the end of the day, everybody has a decision to make. I was raised, and maybe it's just how I was raised. I was raised that if I wanted to right now, I could be quiet and never say another word for the rest of my life. I decide to talk. Like in Braveheart, we going back to the movies. The king tortured him simply because he wanted to hear him yell. He wanted to inflict pain to him to break his spirit. And Braveheart would not yell. They put him on the torture rack. They were stabbing him, slicing him. And when he finally broke, you know what he yelled? He yelled freedom. And that broke the king. The king ended up going crazy because when he yelled out freedom. He didn't yell, please stop. He didn't yell, don't kill me. At the end of the day, yes, you could be born into a situation. We were born into situations, and maybe it's because of the families and the people we had around us. But I would like to think in everybody's life, there comes a time where it's just going to be you, God, and a choice. And based on the choice that you make, it's where you go. That's where you go in life. You've wanted to kill people before. You probably had the opportunity. I've wanted to kill a couple of people before. I've had the opportunity, but I made the decision that I wasn't going to take that route. And I am where I am now. Life is about choices. You can't blame. You can, but that's not going to be acceptable to the courts or to God or even to your own morality. I know people who have killed people. Some of them are here and some of them aren't anymore. But every one of them that I've spoken to told me that it was their choice. You make choices. Even if somebody put a gun in your head and say, shoot this old lady or I'm going to shoot you, you got to make that choice. Either you going to get shot. We literally, I believe one day in this world, we're literally going to get to a place where Christians are going to be prosecuted because all other religions have been or have gotten there to where it's illegal or you can be killed for having a certain religion or a certain type of worship. And I believe that a lot of people who do a lot of the talking, like I'm going to die for this and I'm going to die for that. When you put in that situation and you have to make that choice, it's completely different. As a father, I know this much, you die for your children, but it's a choice because there's a lot of fathers who were put in situations and they ran and left the kids. I don't think you would do that. I know I wouldn't do that. It's a choice, bro. You can't say, oh, I was watching this movie and the guy, he ran and it inspired me to run because I got a life to live and the kid. Like, I believe it's a choice. You can be influenced. I definitely believe you can be influenced, but at the end of the day, that's your choice. You got to live with it. Your influence won't live with it. The movie won't live with it. Those people who influence you to do it won't live with it. I guarantee you don't live with that choice. I had an abortion. I've had an abortion before, and I have to live with that. Not the doctors, the nurses, nobody else. It wasn't with my wife. Nobody else has to live with that decision. I have to live with it for the rest of my life. I was influenced. I had people saying, you young, you this, you shouldn't that, you shouldn't this. And I went and I allowed myself to be influenced. But at the end of the day, I can't blame them. That's my choice that I made. Let me get these dogs out this trash. Go for it, John. What you got for them?
So one thing that I have to always remind myself of when I'm thinking about just society at large and how I think is that like for instance, you, Terry, you're an anomaly. It's put it like this. Go outside and find another Terry within a 5-mile radius. It'd be hard to find that. Or go outside and find another Will within a 5-mile radius. It'd be hard to find that. But if you were to have the regular hood, cat and be like, go out and find another hood guy within a 5-mile radius, I'd probably come back to you within 5 minutes. And the reason why I say that is because we're anomalies are just based off of different factors that we have in our lives, whether it's the input of our parents, our religion, maybe something that we read, our education, our outlook, our perspective, but it's very unique. And with that being in our head, it also gives us a contrast of this is the worst that I can be, but this is also the best that I can be. Let me try to find something in between or try to go towards it better. For a lot of these dudes in the world, they don't have that contrast. They don't have that like, oh, this is what's going to pull me towards the betterment of myself. And to Terry's point, the reason why I say that is because you can tell, like, I remember we'll have me playing Call of Duty, right? So like I was on like Call of Duty Mobile, and I remember I'm playing this stuff. Matter of fact, we were playing Fortnite. I'm sorry, we were playing Fortnite. We're playing a game, and then all of a sudden I remember I was like driving outside, and I was looking at this building, and then all of a sudden I was just like, man, I could build a ramp right there that could give me up. And I'm like, I'm building in real life. Like what? Like it just started to take over so much. But flip that to the kid that all he does is he's able to go online, kill, and then life responds. Kills and then life responds. Kills and then life responds. You start to lose that value of what life. I mean, we see it. Like, look at Chicago. I mean, not even Chicago. Look how much they killing in LA like that. Like they were killing when we were younger, but nowadays, like these kids don't care for the OGs. They don't care for their neighbors. It's cats I know who used to sell elotes at the end of the corner, been on the block for 20 years. Young kids coming up to them, killed them, and you could be like, well, where does that devaluation of life come from? And I get it. It's definitely a choice that we have within ourselves to like, kill or make that whatever decision that we want to make. But at the same time, there's still scales inside of people. And a lot of these games and the music, I mean, why do you think it's so easy? I was at a junior high school one day. It's right across the street from our school. And I remember I looked out, right across the street from my house, and I looked out the window one time, and I'm thinking like, oh, this must be like the high schoolers' day at junior high. But then I look closer, and I'm just like, damn, like these little girls in junior high not wearing nothing. And then it's like, but that's societal. You know what I mean? Like back in my day, I don't know about you guys, like it wasn't like that. It was crazy, but it wasn't like that. So yeah, there is a choice that we can make to do X, Y, or Z, but a lot of this stuff, man, is pushing people off that cliff, and they don't have the God that you have, Will. They don't have the God that you have, Terry. They don't have the people who influenced your life or influenced my life to even have a choice. They're just like, that's it. Nicki Minaj is it. Doja Cat is it. You know what I'm saying? Call of Duty is it. So it's tough, bro.
They may not have the God, they may not have the influence, they may not have the family, but you know something, everybody in this world has a choice. Whether you want to say you got one or not, whether one is bigger. Sometimes A is a big bubble on a multiple choice test. B is a real little speck that you need a magnifying glass. And sometimes the easiest thing to do is the wrong thing. I've done the wrong thing a lot of times. My wisdom comes from mistakes. Everything I've learned from making mistakes. Probably about 10% of the things I've learned from doing right, but I was only doing right because I remember the mistakes I made. But maybe it's a conservative way of thinking.
But you know what God gave you, bro? Just to not even cut you off. One thing that you have, I think we all have, which is powerful, man, is like discernment. And everybody doesn't have
conviction.
That.
I don't even say discernment. I believe everybody has conviction. I believe when you just do something okay, I'm going to speak on it. I'm going to create a platform for honesty. I know I'm a deacon and all of that other stuff, but I'm honest. Porn. Like, I wish that I could really just eradicate that thing out of my life. It's just like, I'm up some days. Sometimes it's like I'm months. I'm good. And then sometimes it's like, oh, get it together, Will. Not for my wife, not for anybody but myself, because I know how I can become consumed. I know how my mind can think. I know how my mind can get jumbled up. So I can almost see where you guys are coming from, because it does influence me. That's the word that I'm going to say. I can become influenced. But at the end of the day, I know that I have a decision to make. And normally I can make the right decision based on my level of conviction. But I feel like if you shoot 20 people, it becomes easier to get to number 21 and number 23 and number 24 and number 25. It's like smoking cigarettes. I don't know anybody personally that smokes cigarettes that isn't like, man, I wish I could quit this. Personally, all the people that I know that smoke cigarettes are like, man, I'm trying to quit, because they know that cigarettes are unhealthy and they cause cancer. There is no maybe, there is no if. It's scientifically proven. Cigarettes kill you. They kill you slowly. For some people, they kill you fast. But if you've been smoking for like 7 years, it's a lot harder for you to quit than the person who maybe been smoking for 7 days. And I believe that's how it is with decision makers. That's how it is with this, you call it discernment. That's how it is with a level of conviction. The more you do something, the more routine it becomes, the easier it is to just say, you know what? That's who I am. That's what I know. I only know this block. I only know this hood. I'm going to defend myself. So if I'm a blood and some Crips roll up on me, I am going to defend myself. But I just thank God, that's what we said, I'm my God. I thank God that I am able to make the decision that I don't have to do that.
Well, only because you've done the same thing when, for instance, like when I quit cigarettes, you know, I was a heavy smoker.
Yes.
But that was all based off of influence too, because it was like I was influenced by the circumstances of what would happen if I didn't quit. You know what I mean? And so that's why I think there's still an innocence that's apparent in everybody, because most of our decisions are based off of influence. It's not that it's actually who you are most of the time. There are times where you make a decision based off of who you are and what you seek, like personally from you, you know, like actual you decisions. But usually those are short. Like people are really scared, especially nowadays, to be who they actually are and
Absolutely.
to make decisions based off of that. So they ride their train based off of influence every single day. It's like, should I wear this? Who am I going to hang out with? Where am I going to go? Right? Should I eat this? Well, how much of my day do I have to be active? Or like, you know, how did this type, what's the ingredients going to offer me later? And that type of stuff. So you're always questioning circumstance before you make the decisions. But then not until you decide that I don't care what I deal with afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what people think. I don't care what's going to happen. I don't care if this works out for me or doesn't. I'm going to do this. And that's when it's based off of raw choice of like just you. But that's still an influence, because it's like you're influenced by yourself, you know, like, I don't know if that counts, but yeah. But you're right. You do have a decision, and it all comes down to that one decision. But given like John was saying, given your circumstances, you know, like I would have been a lot different if I was born in different circumstances. I mean, I have not felt home, you know what I mean? And pretty much anywhere once I got a conscience. Once I was able to realize where I was at and what was going on, I didn't feel connected to anybody or anything around me at all.
Wow.
And then I've been seeking connection my whole life. And I've gotten connection with people and in places that I've been, but I've never like resided in a place of comfort yet. And so I still am, and that's mainly because I did the choice, like you said, like you're the same way. That's why we didn't fall victim to we didn't fall a product of our environments, because we decided to be us regardless of the circumstances. Right. But most people,
that's a bar. Be you regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah, most people, like I got jumped, I've gotten talk crap too. I've had girls diss me, tell me I was a simp and all that. I'm like, I'm a simp, huh? You know what I mean? Like all that stuff. And it's like, okay, but me in other places might be praised. Me in other places might be sought out. And so I decided to just like it actually, it's crazy, because then even that's influence, because I was influenced to like tinker and other things. I was like, let me try skateboarding because this basketball crap ain't working. You know what I mean? And that was because all my homies, my homie Wesley from junior high played.
Still got to get you at 21, John. I still ain't beat you in 21.
Man, I probably am trash on the court at this time. The last time I was shooting, I was like trying to make sure nobody was watching me. But like that, it's like you do have a choice, but what comes with those choices, right? And so some people aren't as cautious as we are. We grew up in like a relatively violent environment, right? Like the rules were set in place, the politics were there regardless of what we thought or what we tried to do or tried to be. You're gonna live by this code. And it wasn't a code that met our lifestyles, right? But when I was able to get out of there, I realized like, oh, there's opportunity to be me. I just have to find a place where I could be me, right? Or you have to like deal with the consequences of being you where you're at. You know, you got to expose it and be that. So it's like that, and a lot of people don't have that. So a lot of our friends we grew up with, some of them come out like us, and some of them just fall into being like that.
I just got a funny picture, Terry.
But
my mind's just working. Like if you're a hardcore Crip and all your homies thugging, but you just really love ballet. You're like, I don't know why that came to my mind, but it's like that's a movie, but it's like I'm in these streets. But I just want a puree or whatever it's called. You know what I mean? And the homies walk in and you doing the thing. You get, cuz, what you doing? And you like, man, this is who I am. But you know what? I'm going to let you go back to this. I saw a video, and John, I sent it to you. Terry, you might have saw it. Mm-hmm. This guy was a game player, right? He was a Crip, but I guess he fell down on hard times or something. So then he started prostituting. And he was on Figueroa, and he was in a dress, he was in heels. And then I guess some of his homies from the hood was going up the block, and they saw him. So they got out of the car and confronted him like, man, what you doing, cuz? And he like, man, I'm out here. It's hard for me. I'm out here trying to make it. Y'all ain't going through what I'm going through. And they like, man, no, cuz, you know, you messing over the hood, nigga. You ain't from the hood no more. He's like, man, I already got the okay from the big homie.
Talk to the
OGs. And at first, when I watched it, I laughed at it. You know what I mean? But now that we're having this conversation, I guess I am agreeing with you guys. You know, it's like, I would much rather, as weird as odd as this sounds, I would much rather that man go out there and do that based on whatever circumstances or whatever influence he has to do, than go out there and rob and kill somebody. You know what I mean? I believe it's choices. And if those were his options, I have more respect for him saying, hey, I'm gonna go out there and use myself as a business and make some money, rather than go out there and kill another man or rob another man. But then his homies is looking at him like, instead of being like, hey, get off the block, what you need, we got you. We'll look out for you. It's more so just like, nigga, if we see you again, it's on or whatever, you ain't from the hood no more. I guess I'm just thankful to have brothers to where I don't have, you guys, I'm saying brothers, I don't have to, the extreme is never an option. So I guess in a sense, I'm just blessed because if I'm hungry, I can say, John, can you help me get something? Can you send me $10? Terry, do you have $5 you can give me for gas? Now, even though $5 ain't doing nothing now. and vice versa. I just pray that everybody gets into a situation or everybody gets to a place where they're strong enough to do what you say, Terry, and make the right decision based off of whatever what's the word you said? The consequence is, because it's a freedom in being who you are. You know that. And then as far as the influence, I hope that we get more opportunities to be influenced in a positive way than a negative way. Because a lot of the things that I do, I've been influenced by you guys. John, you got your own business and you got your own YouTube page or whatever. That influenced me to like step out on my dream. Terry, when I saw you playing guitar and singing and doing all of the songs and stuff that I liked, it influenced me to do those things. And one thing I can thank you guys for, and even Donnie, because I'm gonna put my homie Donnie here. Terry, you know what's up. Has Donnie ever asked you to smoke any weed?
No.
Never. You know, he gonna smoke every time we skate, or he rolling it up on the way to the skate park. And I'm not saying bad influence, but I'm saying thank you guys for never giving me an option or an opportunity to fall prey to what you might deem in yourself as negative. If you've ever pushed me to anything, it's the positives in you. Well, I draw, you draw too, man. Keep practicing. Well, let's go skate. I skate, you skate. Well, man, you better do that, man. Bro, you need to open up that business. Well, you need to get that IG account started, man. You better get that podcast started. Like, I guess in a way, I gotta recant. I have to take back what I said, even though I still believe it's in a decision. I guess I'm just seeing it from where you guys are saying it as I'm listening to y'all talk. God just blessed me to be in a position to have friends who always push me to the purpose of something that was good, because I could have easily been pushed into like, man, just have this drink with me or shoot this nigga. You know what I mean? So
no, we're both right.
Everybody gets that friend, that brother. Everybody gets that opportunity to truly be happy and to feel family and community, like you were saying, Terry.
Yeah, I think we're both right, because ultimately it is your decision. I mean, like I said, once you decide to be you, I've had plenty of instances, we've all had it, where people, even like with their dreads, right, John? When you were first starting in mugs, I don't know how long your hair was when you first started, but I know, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Hell yeah.
I have people giving me them Monty Python, like, that's shrubbery, you know, like people be like, what is on your head, bro? What are you doing? But like, you decided, like, regardless of circumstance, I want these, and I'm going to deal with people not understanding where my direction. I'm going to deal with people asking me stupid questions like, do bugs live in there? I used to just look at them.
Your hair doesn't stink. You be
like, yeah, like, what do you mean?
Right.
Wash our hair. Like, what are you talking
How
about?
do you wash it? You like,
with water.
Yeah, you wash your hair.
Exactly.
Does it itch?
Yeah. So some things, once you did, it depends on how bad you want it. You know what I mean? Whatever you want. Like, I remember finding my style. Like, I still haven't found a style of dress, and I kind of just wear random stuff, but I like to switch it up. And I know, like, we all go through these. Remember when me and you, Will, were into the dread hats? The
oh yeah,
crocheted ones. We used to have every color in them. And some people would be like, "Oh, that's hard, bro. I like those." And some people be like, "What are you wearing that for?" You know?
Wow.
And it's like, don't worry about it, bro. It's my head.
It's who I am.
Yeah.
To this day, I still get asked like, "Why are you always in a button up?" Me and my wife literally just had a little disagreement, because she's like, "I'm gonna shop for you and I'm gonna buy you this stuff and this," and I'm like, "Is it from H&M?" And she's just like, "No, I'm going online." And I'm like, "Nah, just get me stuff from H&M." And she's like, "But I want us to match." I'm like, "Nah, I'm okay. Just get us stuff from H&M." And I was wrong. You know, she's trying to do something nice for me, and I apologize, babe. But I'm just so like, that's me, you know, like, you know that I'm only gonna wear clothes that come from H&M. And she's like, "Well, they're like a monkey in the jungle." I'm like, "Just don't buy me the monkey in the jungle shirt. Just make sure my button ups and my chinos come from H&M. You know, that's who I am." But man, it's just funny, man.
But look at where you guys are. You sent me this video a couple of days ago, and I always ask you about him, but I didn't know him. But Will told me that both you guys know him. You're talking about influence and stuff. Imagine if the majority of like your friend CJ, imagine the majority of his friends were like you guys. You know, he'd probably be on the fourth window on this podcast we're having.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a huge part of his life was that, you know, we missed out on from what you guys tell me, like a great person, you know, and I understand you got choices, but I told Will, like, me and my girl, we were having like a bad time in our relationship, right? Horrible time. And you know, you try to sit and try to figure out like, what's going on, man? What in the world's going on? But this was kind of the best explanation that happened. You ever go to the grocery store and you're full, like you got like your stomach's full and everything's great. You start like, I'm gonna buy this salad, I'm gonna get this vitamin E, you start picking out better choices. When you starving, you like, man, I'm gonna get this Snickers, I'm gonna get this cookie, I'm gonna get da-da-da. And that's when you approach a situation through desperation. Like when I met her, and I think I told her, at least on my end, when I met her, like I was so empty of a person that I didn't take the proper steps to develop a right relationship with her. And I started acting out of desperation. Or you see like our community as like African Americans, it's like, yeah, we have choices, but they make
Very Puerto Rican, by the way.
Okay. Our African Americans.
What's the difference, bro?
Yeah.
Thank you, man. It only comes.
You see them eyes.
but that's
I'm
what
half.
they do to us. They make us so desperate. Like you deplete a community and they have very little options. And you drop something like cocaine. You're like, so what you gonna do? Or when you have a community that has nothing, and all of a sudden they have a show called Bait Car, and they put a Lexus in it. You guys got a choice. It's like, what do you think they gonna decide? You know what I mean? Like, it's so skewed that it's just like it's almost not one. Which is why I think that's why, again, I think you, Terry, that's why you guys turned out to be so upstanding guys, is because
you as well, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you, man. But we decided to like pour into ourselves, so that we don't go into the grocery store hungry. We don't go into the world hungry. We don't have to act out of desperation. You know what I mean? Like, well, you feel with the Bible, you can actually have like, you know what? I'm not desperate. I don't need some sort of approval. I don't need, like you said, Terry, like I don't need to fit in. I can be me. I'm filled with my own identity, or I'm filled with saying affirmations to myself, like you were saying. But it's so many people who are just walking the world like a grocery store, man. They're starving. Instead of getting nutrients, man, they're going after so much junk food. So
yeah.
But you know what makes it hurt? What hurts me now, I'm at a place where being full doesn't satisfy me when I'm around a bunch of hungry people. You know, I'm literally running around with the EBT card to fulfillment, saying like, get what you want. You know, I can help you. I can feed you. I got some knowledge, and people is like, bruh. So now what I'm learning and what my pastor taught me, or the church, is like, what I have been guilty of is running around trying to give people what I have, thinking that's what they want, instead of going around and saying, what is it you need? Mm-hmm. Because somebody don't need the Bible right now. They just need a hug. Somebody don't want to be hugged. Somebody just want to be listened to. They don't want to hear nothing you got to say. Can you just listen to me and let me get it all out?
Like that.
Somebody don't want a dollar. They want a burger. Can you please buy me a burger without mayonnaise? I don't eat mayonnaise. We be so, this nigga, how you hungry and you being picky, but the man don't like mayonnaise. You know what I mean?
I gotta have that, the watch with the hot sauce squirter.
Yeah, it's like, so now what I'm at in life is like, instead of me going in and coming out with the groceries, I'm at a place in my life where I'm saying, come in with me and throw what you need in the basket. If I can afford it, I can afford it. If not, then I have to be able to say, hey, right now I can't afford to give you that. Right now I might not be the guy who can hug you, because I might have something that might jump off on you, but I can point you in the direction of somebody who's giving out hugs. Right now, you need to know about opening businesses. I'm not the guy to talk to. I don't understand how to open a business, but I can point you in the direction of John. Right now, your mama passed away and you want something to remember her by forever, and you're thinking about getting a tattoo. I don't do tattoos, but I can point you in the direction of a Terry. And I think sometimes we just get caught up in trying to give them whatever it is we have, instead of just saying, hey, what is it you want? What is it you need? So that's where I'm at right now. It ain't enough for me to be in the grocery store walking around full, like, look at all of these hungry Negroes. To me, I'm just like, I can't even, you know how moms raised us, John. You can't come in that house with a Snicker and ain't nobody else got nothing.
Right.
My mom, if you come in here with something for you, you better have enough for everybody. And that's where I'm at right now. But I'm also learning that I have to be okay with those who don't want to eat.
I don't know, Will. Sometimes I have seen you leave a burger in the car. Just to wait till they leave.
Don't snitch me out. Don't snitch me out. Keep that bug going away.
Yeah, I was raised similar too, because in our house it was like the way we were raised to be orientated with our decisions, like that, like the same thing. Like if I'm gonna buy something, I'll just explain it. Like when I go back to visit home to my mom's and all that, if I go to the store and get myself something, I call my brother and be like, hey bro, I'm at the store, I'm about to get ice cream, you want anything? You know, tell Ty I'm over here, see what he's on, and I'll wait on the phone. And then after I get the answer for them, then I'll hang up and be like, okay, I'm gonna get this and that. But it's just being considerate, you know, and that was one of the things, perks of growing up in the hood, is like everybody was like looking out for each other. Like in the younger, you know, you go to your friend's house, you could eat dinner there if you wanted to. You could stay, you could eat dinner there.
Man, don't you miss those days?
Oh yeah, bro, I do. I mean, and it feels weird nowadays because I go to people's house, I'll be on the couch starving, like I could feel the little grunts, and they'll get up, they'll be on their phone like making them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then they'll look up at me and I'm over there like holding my stomach like, oh, like rocking, and they're like, bro, this is organic peanut butter. It's dope, bro. You should get you some of this next time whenever you want like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, like buy this. They'll put it back in the fridge, and I'm right there like in my head, like if this was my house, I would have been like, hey, bro, I'm about to make me a peanut butter jelly one. You want one?
I never forget them pastrami tacos you made.
Hey, them was fire.
That was fire, man.
You know how that came? Because I didn't have bread. And I was like, I made a pastrami sandwich one time with the regular sandwich bread, and it turned into mush because pastrami is moist, you know? And so I had those breads, but then I had a pack of tortillas, and I was like, did it. And then I just made sure I warmed up the tortilla first, so I had that gold. And then I was like, oh, this is a straight recipe right here. This is like lunch truck status.
Bruh, heck yeah. You might have put that out there, low key.
Yeah, dude.
Watch tomorrow. You're gonna be riding down by Celia Boulevard. You're gonna be TJ's pastrami taco truck. You're gonna be like,
oh, run into that mug. Like, heck no, y'all owe me profit. Me first. Sheesh.
Hey, John. We talked about the movies. I guess we're gonna title this movies, music, and everything, because we just was all over the place. But this where you about to shine, bro. Hit us over the head with some knowledge, man. What's some books you got for the people? I got 3 books I'm gonna share, but I know you be always in a book, so let the people know, man.
I guess I'll just do 3 real quick that come up to the top of mind. The first one is a book called, let me see, I think I just wrote it down. Yeah, The Courage to Be Disliked. So it's actually it was a book that was written in Japanese. It's a philosophy book. You know, like American style philosophy is more so based off of like Sigmund Freud, cause and effect. So it's like a hierarchical belief, but The Courage to Be Disliked is more so off of it was based off a guy named David Adler, who was kind of like a contemporary at the time. Instead of believing in like hierarchical relations, he believed in like vertical relations. So it basically
break that down in kindergarten talk for me, because I'm lost.
Yeah. No worries. It takes off the cause and effect, saying like, because of this happened. This person did this to me, therefore this happened. It takes that off and it makes it more of sort of a like an inner decision. So it's more like because somebody hurt me, I can't go out in public, right? When the actual reason that the person isn't going out in public is just because they don't want to experience hurt again. You get what I'm saying? So it's less off of what happened and more so off what can happen. But a lot of people like to put what happened as the culprit so that it can be serving as an excuse so that they can live in the possibility of what if. And it goes back and forth between like a student and a philosophy, just like a question and answer book. But again, it was written in Japanese. They just translated it to English. I probably read that book like 6 times, bro. It's probably like my favorite book, maybe of all time. So definitely check that out. The other one was my fiance actually put me on this one. It was called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And I know it sounds like, oh, this is gonna make you like a self-help. To be honest, it just got like my finances in order. So like it taught me how like the automation when it comes to bills, about how to call certain credit card companies, what to say to them in order to get to get some stuff like extended X, Y, and Z. And she did it and did a lot of great for her. But then when I came out to Atlanta, when I moved out here, she was like, you should start like doing this. And I didn't even finish the book, but it still set me on a trajectory that was like really good, I guess, just for like personal finances. So, and I guess the last one will be The Alchemist. So The Alchemist is like, I know you guys have read The Alchemist, right? No,
I've heard a lot about it. I haven't read it yet, personally.
I got it in an audiobook format. Actually, I ain't gonna lie to you. I went to YouTube and put it in, and I just saved it under audiobook.
Bro. Well, however, to be honest, I kept hearing so many people like talk about it. My favorite producer has always been like the Neptunes, Pharrell and Chad Hugo, and they kind of talked about it in one episode. I'm like, man, let me read this book. But it's basically talks about a guy that, like, this boy named Santiago lives in a small village. He has to go on like this tour, not a tour, on his quest to kind of find like his purpose and his greatest destiny. And he goes through all these different aspects and journeys, and he's looking for it and here, there, and there. And then, spoiler alert, but it kind of shows that, like, to be honest, the thing he was very looking for was never out there. It was actually back at home where he was. So I think that's a good thing. And, we kind of experience life when we go out there, we try to find these things and things to satisfy us. And it's crazy. There was a guy who wrote a poem, and he was talking about he was a womanizer. I know we talk about womanizers, but he had like a part in his poem where he said, like, I forgot who I was. Therefore, I was out there always asking women, like, what's my name? You know what I mean? Like, it was real crazy when he said that. But then that's kind of when, that self journey came to just looking more so within myself. How do I feel about myself? We talked about Kanye West. He has a part that I love personally, but he was like, yeah, like, people ask me, like, what do you mean by when you call yourself a guy? He's like, I told you what I mean. Like, I'm a God. Would you rather call me a nigga? And it's like, I'm a lot closer to godliness than I am to being the NIGGA. So, The Alchemist. I don't want to go on a rant, but it's a great book.
No, man, you bless the people, because I'm sure you got many more than that. You want to go, Terry? You want me to go?
No, you go.
Mine gonna be quick. So these are books I've actually read. I'm gonna do an honorable mention. I don't have it with me because I left it in the bus and somebody took it, but I read the whole book. I was almost on my second time of reading it. If you can, guys, Jason Wilson, Cry Like a Man. That book did wonders for me. I hadn't spoken to my father in over 30 years. And after reading that book, I actually developed a relationship with my father. Wow. So Cry Like a Man. That's my honorable mention. My first book, actually, you know what? Let's do this one first. Slaves in the Family by Edward Ball. Haven't read this book entirely because it upsets me every time I start reading it. This is a book that I read like a couple of pages or a chapter or two, and then I had to put it down for like a week. So what the book is about is by a man named Edward Ball. You guys can YouTube Edward Ball. So his family owned plantations, and they basically all are rich from plantation money. But his family didn't own cotton plantations. They owned rice plantations, because a lot of people, if you don't know, we didn't just pick cotton. We also worked in rice, because a lot of people had rice farms, and that was what a lot of slaves did also. So all he ever heard was how good his family was to the slaves. So he went and he interviewed some people in his family, and they were all like, oh, we were good to our slaves. We didn't whip our slaves and this and that. And he just felt like that doesn't fit in with what society says happened to slaves. So then he started looking into the record books of like the old plantations and stuff that his family still owned. And he was able to find some of the information of the other slaves, like descendants. And then he went and he was like, can I interview you? And at first, some people was hesitant, from as far as I have read the book. And then once he started actually talking to these people and figuring out like how his family was so brutal, and like how certain relatives weren't as brutal as others, but like how they would take kids and sell them, basically exactly what you would think slaves would do. So he's just really learning really what his family was as plantations owners, slave owners. So again, that one's called Slaves in the Family by Edward Ball. This is probably one of my favorite books, and I'm not going to say the name of it, but I'll spell it for you. It is titled Niggr, and it is the autobiography of Baba Big Gregory. It's an awesome book. I actually have I'm trying to get this book, Callous on My Soul. It's kind of expensive. And I have this book, Defining Moments of Black History in America. I read that one as well, but this one I would recommend you to get as a first read for Dick Gregory. Talks about his childhood, his upbringing, the situation of his dad beating on his mother and how that affected him. It talks about how he stopped doing comedy so much and started becoming more of an activist. He gives praise to what's the guy that owned Playboy Mansion?
Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner, because Hugh Hefner actually was one of the first people that would allow Black performers to come on his show and be integrated. They could sit on the couch and do all kind of other stuff. So it talks about how Hugh Hefner was a big help to him, and it's a beautiful book, man. If you ever want to read a good autobiography, this one. I can't read fiction, so it has to be something that's true or something that's helping. And then the best book I've ever read in my life, the Bible. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I read the whole Bible cover to cover. I probably have read it all. I probably haven't read it all. When I read it, I don't read it like a story. I read it like instructions for living life. My favorite thing I've ever read in the Bible is when God came to Solomon and he asked him, what do you want? Anything you ask me, I'll give it to you. And he asked him for wisdom so that he can be able to discern his people rightly. My favorite character in the Bible is Job, because he went through all of this. He didn't lose his faith in God. He didn't curse God. And at the end of it, he learned how much he truly loved God and how much God trusted him, and God gave him everything back simply because he wanted to. I would recommend this book over any book. I know a lot of people ain't Christian, maybe a lot of people ain't believers, but this book I would choose over any book in the world, because this book has helped me get through so many things.
I would recommend people look in it even if they're not Christian. It doesn't matter. It's still helpful regardless. I think that it's definitely something to look into. Let me get something I'm reading really quick.
Okay. And then my other book, The Cat in the Hat. No, just
That's funny you say that, because this book, it's not you guys are expecting anyway. So it's a Ninja Turtle comic book, right? They got brought back. But
that's actually, you know how many people reading them books way more than the books we talked about in You a Tattoo Artist?
Hey, people underestimate comic books, bro. Look at how big it's going in the movie, in the cinema. There's a lot of lessons. But so basically, it's the Ninja Turtles, and then they all passed away, right?
Whoa.
And one is left. I can't expose that.
Donatello?
Can't expose it. It's big time, right? But all right, I'll expose that. I wish it was Donatello, but it's not. Yeah. But and then in the first one that I read, I guess Shredder's son decided to pick up the torch and carry it. And it's like all futuristic. It's pretty crazy. But like the last turtle, they're basically still, he's like gone a little bit crazy. So he while he's on missions, he talks to them and asks questions and all this stuff. And I'm still getting into it, but it was pretty crazy to see that he still took on what they accomplished with all of them by himself. And he doesn't even have Splinter or anybody with him anymore. And it gets pretty deep. I just got it's only two of them out right now, but it's pretty dope. Also have Dreaming Wide Awake.
I love the way that sounds.
It's
what is that about?
It's about psychedelics, the experience with psychedelics, like the medicinal treatments, and then the information, like the toad, explaining the indigenous and certain things, not too much the toad, but more of mushrooms and things like that, like psilocybin. And then it talks about how it's helped people's mental health and how it's wrecked people's mental health as well, and different things like that. But why people decided to make those use this stuff and practices from the beginning, That's that one, and why it's being brought back into health practice nowadays for for psychology.
I know I talked about influence and all of that other stuff, but if I had to do anything and was going to do anything, I would do the toad, because Mike Tyson did it and he's a completely different person. So I wouldn't want to do no mushrooms and nothing else, but I definitely probably try that toad.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. The toad is actually way heavier than.
I know. He said he died.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta in order to understand where Mike Tyson comes from, you gotta kind of like dabble in that stuff for sure, because he can go off on a tangent, you know. But then I have this one right here. I'm just opening is it's called Creativity, Spirituality, and Making a Buck. And it's like a friendly and funny and practical guide for creatives and entrepreneurs. Yeah, it's pretty dope. But it's like it's made in the form of a class, so it's pretty cool because it'll like force me to be invested. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Instead of like opening it when I feel like I need it. You know, I have to like actually, like right off the back, it says write down your goals. And then it'll tell you like write down what have you done to meet these goals, and what do you think is you should do about this, and what, you know, all that. And it has you like assess yourself basically, and then it gives you hints, and then it gives you like little insights of what other experiences along the way of becoming an entrepreneur and building like a business. Wow. So pretty dope. But all that stuff is like, it's very scary for me. So as I've been reading a lot about entrepreneurs, when they fall hard. It's nothing like getting a job and then losing a job. It's not nowhere near the same. Like some people invest all of their life savings and everything into this one idea, and if it falls apart, like even if
you and him are the entrepreneurs. You got your tattoos, and then he got Seed Box and KSM.
Yeah, dude, it's different. And like when I get hit hard, and then I'm grounded. As a difference of when I was working in like the refinery job or whatever, like we would get laid off by season because you can't paint in the rain, you know? And then like I would have a savings, and I had a chance to like build up a second thing, and I knew that it was going to come back, or like I knew if I applied at other jobs when it was coming to that point or whatever. But in my business, like when COVID hit, for example, like everything, all of my options died along with my business.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like I couldn't get orders. I couldn't get certain supplies. Even nowadays, like I went to go get paint, and like they're like, oh, some of the mixings aren't available and this and that. And then the ones you do get, they raise the price, they jack the prices up. So that, and then clients for tattooing, bloodborne pathogens during COVID pandemic, not happening. You know? So like there's like things set up to survive in the working industry for a business that's already there. But for one that's being created, you're trying to get people to believe in this idea to be successful, you know, and use and but then not only do most investors, they come to you with like, okay, your business is crap, prove me wrong. That's how they're supposed to attack it, right?
Yep.
I legitly started my business out here 2 months before the pandemic hit, and I was building a clientele, and then when it hit, it was just an erase, right? And then there was nothing I could do because I didn't work at a shop at the time. I didn't have like much to show for, so it was just kind of like I'm out of luck. And then the shops were all like closing down and stuff too, so that hit, and then it was like there was nothing else but to like get another job. And I had already had my mind built up for like a couple of years on making this massive change and making this massive sacrifice. And I had explained it to everybody around me. And then when it hit, it was just like, yeah, no, I suck. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know what to tell you or what to do. So it helped me to read up on other people that dealt with these type of situations. Like the creator of Ugg boots. I listened to him on a podcast one time, and he has a book out. I can't remember the name of it. But he said like one of the things that he learned was that one of the biggest lessons he learned in building business, that everything starts from a baby. You know, you can't expect to just give birth to a full grown, fully functioning situation. You know what I mean? Like it has to start from a baby. So people be like, oh, like I'm gonna start this business, and then by this year, by my first year, I'm gonna reach this amount of revenue and this and that, blah blah blah. And it's like that's dangerous having those type of expectations. Like you kind of just gotta get out there, and like the best thing to do is to prepare yourself for hits and falls. Like make a savings, have a backup plan, like all these different things, and do it behind each idea has to have like the equal. Like if you have an idea that's going to get you here, you got to have a safety net that'll at least keep you here. You can't like fall, because then it'll push just even further up for you. So it's pretty crazy, like to hear it and read about it, but then to actually go through it, it was like devastating, dude. So I've been reading these books, and it's like it's not so bad as I thought it was. Like I was like, man, am I dumb, or am I incapable of this? But most of these people that we see on these in the industry, like they're exposed because they're already way up there.
Yep.
Right. We don't see the people that are like building and things like that. And even like on YouTube, you see those people because they're high up on the algorithms. But like people that just started within like the first couple of years, you don't hear anything from them unless you like know them personally or something. But a lot of people don't understand, like when you first start things, it's going to be like, you have to be very, very strong-willed and very, very self-asserted, I think it is. What's the term?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're self-asserted.
Yeah. You have to be like, yeah, I'm going to make it. I don't care. And they'll be like, you're going to hit this. I'm going to make it. I don't care. Because it's going to seem like everything is going to try to get you out of it. You know how we was talking last time, Will, about like when you decide to turn your life over to God, you know, that's when the real situations happen, right? But when it's an idea and you're like dabbling and talking to people, like I used to just sit there and talk to guys at the park, like those guys would just show up and watch, and they'll be like, you know, he loves you, right? And I'm like, what, the Nolly flip nose man? And he's like, no, like I could see the shirt you're wearing and then they talk to me. I was like, oh yeah, give me the information. I was never like those people like, bro, I'm trying to skate. But I never, and then I would like hear about things and say like, okay, I'm gonna start getting more active, start going back to church, I'm gonna start doing this and that, right? But then when you actually do it, you think your life is hard and you got to make decisions. And when you actually start making it, that's when the real situation happens and the real trials and tribulations emerge. And I think that's why with that help, you get past all these stumps, and that's why you get so like you believe in it so much, right? And it's the same thing with when you're building a business or anything like that, is what I've been learning from my readings and stuff, is like you invest so much time and effort into it and so much endurance. Like you got to deal through so much that like you get to this point where it's like, yeah, this business, man, you know what we've been through, dude. This is why I believe in it. So it's no different in anything you take, though, any approach. You have to have like faith. You have to have endurance, you have to have patience, and you have to have faith. So it's pretty cool that even in the comic book, it teaches that. In your guys' books, everywhere, it's like certain things, like we were talking about with the movies, like certain basics, you know, they're unmanipulatable.
So my question, I guess I'll ask, because you guys are both business owners, and with being a business owner, I know there's a lot of learning. Like there's a lot of, you know, just going for what you know, not knowing what you're doing, a lot of reading, a lot of sitting under, you know, somebody who has that information. When it comes to, because we use media like movies, music, podcasts, we can use it for entertainment, but we can also use it for learning. So how do you guys retain information? What works better for you, John, Terry? Is it a podcast? If you listen to a podcast, does it lock it in? Are you more visual, like I have to see somebody doing this thing for me to get it? Or are you more like, hey, I need to open the book and understand the terms and see it in writing? What helps you as far as retention when you're trying to learn something? Is it more of like just seeing it, or is it reading it?
At least on my end, is more so I have to put it into like practice. Like I gotta fail at it. You know what I mean? The thing that I've been trying to learn now has been more so like storytelling, like in marketing, like taking like a product and developing a story behind it, and whether it's like how the product came to fruition or like if I want to emit an emotion behind it. Do I want to make this like a luxury product? Do I want to make you feel happy about this or whatever the case may be? Like I can see someone be like, okay, this is the art of storytelling. One of the guys who kind of started, his name was Edward Bernays, and like he had like this little like principles, all from like 1942 that kind of follow all the way to now. Like there's always like these 5 principles for storytelling. And I can remember listening to it, like, okay, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. But it only came to hit when I was like, okay, you know what, enough. And it was actually another business owner who told me, he was like, bro, at a certain point, you got to stop listening and just start applying it. Whatever you think you know of it right now, start applying it. Fail and fail fast. Get that out the way. So that kind of changed around like my little learning thing. Instead of like trying to study it, okay, do I have it memorized? I got it perfect? It's like, no, just you read it once, maybe read it twice, act. Because the more you think about it, the more you think yourself out of it.
Yeah, I agree. The same thing, pretty much. Preparation is key, but you're not gonna get the vital knowledge out of it until you just get out there and do it. So yeah, like I gotta see it. Like it's always different. Everybody's experience is different. So like I've read a lot of things and talked to a lot of people that they get into entrepreneurship or whatever type of goal they get into, and like if it's something that I have went towards, like I'm like Will, like for instance, how you would teach somebody if you wanted to teach somebody how to nollie flip, right? And then how I teach somebody how to nollie flip, it would be completely different techniques. Ultimately, we're doing the same trick, and it has to. You got like a basic. You're gonna nollie and then flick the board and then land on it, right? But how we do it is different, and our experiences while we were learning it are probably different too. You know, you can't just be like, oh, you're gonna learn this trick. You got to nollie, slide your foot off the grip tape, flip it, land it, and then sometimes you're gonna fall. It's like, nah, bro, you got to go into more detail, and then that's why I encourage people to talk to other people, start conversating, stop being a weirdo, just like texting and all that stuff, because it's weird. It really is. And then talk to people physical, because you could get the sense of expression, like you could feel the vibes, like. And then also go out and try it. You can plan it, you can prepare for it, but like get out there and try it real quick, like fast, like even how we did with the podcast. We just said, let's just put it up, because we could have planned it. We could have put a month in between it and get like a couple episodes ahead and all this stuff, but that doesn't mean we knew what we were doing. And then I was also just prolonging us learning what to do. So get out there, try. If you have an idea, try it. If you can't try it, prepare to try it more before you prepare to keep it going. If that makes sense. Like a lot of people, like the difference in people doomsday prepping by buying a bunch of stuff and reading outdoorsman books and all this. All these people talking about, oh, I'm gonna live off the grid if they what is it, the vaccine, if they mandate the vaccine everywhere, I'm gonna live off grid. You know how many people would die in the first couple of weeks of living off grid?
Eating the wrong mushrooms.
I mean? With like money, people with money will die because and they have a whole bunker full of stuff, and they'll be at that mug depressed. They'll be losing their minds, like overthinking everything, like overeating stuff. Why is the internet not working? Oh my God. It's like dude, if we shut the internet down, like
a lot of people who think they're important won't be important no more. I can tell you that.
You know, the suicide rate will go crazy. People, what am I gonna do without my YouTube channel? I don't even work a job.
If people's phones erased and they couldn't get the memory back, people would lose their mind, because you can't even call your mama. You don't know her phone number. You just know
exactly. Dude, I barely remember birthdays. I get a little notification on my social medias. That's like, it's this person's birthday. I'll be like, oh, for sure. HBD, explanation point. You know, I ain't talked to the people in like years. But two, it's like, not to judge anybody, because I was young and didn't have much responsibilities either, but or less experience too. But look at the customer service and the working environment right now, because the
Right.
pandemic sent a lot of people off of their jobs that they've been working so long. All the professionals and stuff are off, and then these other people had to come in that haven't really done it, or not even worker type people. Like today, I went to McDonald's to get nuggets, and the guy, not only was I waiting at the window for like a good 5 minutes, which is a long time in a drive-through, but then the guy comes to the thing and leans all the way out on me, like almost heading the car, and he's like, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, but it's gonna be a long wait. So can you go park in the parking lot, and we'll bring the order to you?" And I was like, "It's a 20-piece nugget. Like, how is that gonna be a long wait? It's like it's not like I ordered a family pack. It's not like I did all this right." And then so I looked past him because I was being judgmental, like, "Oh, weak self, get out of my way. Let me see what the problem is." I look in there, and it's a whole crew in there, and they're all just standing around. One dude was right there, like looking at the fry thing, like, and I was like, crap. I might want to cancel my order. I might get some like frozen, you know. But I went over there, and I was just thinking in my head, like, goodness, dude, like every day I'm running into people that like aren't ready for the occasion.
Wow.
So it's like, get out there, you know.
That's a bar.
That aren't ready for the occasion. Wow.
That's a bar. It's a scripture that talks about, you know, the groom coming for his bride, and your candle better be lit, because he ain't waiting for you to light your candle. Like, you're gonna miss your opportunity to leave with your grooming because you sitting around playing instead of being prepared. And there's a lot of people out here, like you say, they not prepared. They even ain't prepared to just go out there and try.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's tough.
For me, I would say it depends on what it is. Like, I've realized that if it's an artistic thing, then I have to see it. So like if I'm trying to learn how to play a song, a John Mayer song, or if I'm looking at how to draw this picture or something like that, I have to see it. But when it's something that's knowledge, I have to read it. So like if I'm reading about history or slavery, or if I'm reading about like a politician, or maybe some new measure that or bill that they're trying to pass, if I watch that on YouTube or listen to it on a podcast or something, I won't retain it. Like, things that I see that are of a value of importance, I have to read. But anything where I'm like, oh, it's art, I'm gonna play this song or whatever, I have to see it. No doubt I can learn that they're like, oh, it's a C major 7, and then you go to a B minor, and then you play a open G. And I'm like, oh, okay, I know what those things are from a process of elimination. You know, it's only 7 musical notes. But if you just play and let me watch you play, I can probably learn the whole song in one sitting, especially if I learn the lyrics. But I feel like as I'm getting older, I value knowledge from a book, because I feel like all the important stuff is put in books. And I feel like you can only go so far with like a video. You know, you got an hour and a half to tell this person's life. So something's going to be omitted, something's going to be changed, something's going to be altered. But in a book, whoever wrote that book or whatever, they can put as much as they can into that book. So, and I feel like for me, I feel like you go deeper into explanation, you go deeper into understanding. It's just like when I read my Bible, I get a different revelation than when I watch like a video about what I'm reading, because the video can only go so far. The video can't really tell me context. The video can't really give you the whole synopsis, because an hour, it's like when you watch Moses. We all have seen Moses, right? But then you see the whole Pharaoh, let my people go. You watch the movie, but then when you actually read it and you see all the little nuances and things that they didn't put in, it's just like contextually, it makes so much more sense for me when I'm reading something as opposed to watching it. With that being said, then go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's the connection is deeper because it feeds your imagination. It lets you, it forces you to access one of your strengths, one of your key strengths. You know, like your imagination is like everything. And so like when you're reading, you could almost I like that's one of the things about reading that I appreciate is that it puts you in the situation. Like you're there in your head. Like when you're watching a movie, that's someone else's imagination. That's how they depicted it, right? But for you, you don't know how the characters look, so you could create them in your head. And that already starts the investment. And then you're reading these words and you're really investing your time and efforts into this physically. And then it's just like it locks you in and the stuff comes in you more natural instead of like watching a movie where you're getting these characters and then depends on the actor. You know, what if they casted like a crappy actor you don't like? You're not even gonna take the message from the movie because you're like, that dude's trash. Like, why did they pick him? You know? But like if in the book, I mean, like I have people like that's that whole thing where people were like, oh, you're a Harry Potter fan, but you're not a real one because you haven't read the books. And they did it for like Lord of the Rings. They did it for Twilight. It's like, oh yeah, I love Lord of the Rings. Because personally, I love Lord of the Rings. And they're like, but you don't know nothing about the Hobbit though. Like, bro. And then the Hobbit came out like the next year, and I was like, right. But it's like true. When you read it, it is different though. So that makes sense.
You still on the tape?
Cut to angle B.
Hey, your dog in the background was going ham on that pillow or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And while you were talking, I was like, dang, no break.
They know coming in the house. But so I guess what I was gonna ask before we were rudely interrupted. No, I'm just joking. So we talking about books, we talking about movies, we talked about life decisions. My question is, a lot of things seem to be profitable, like, and I know comedy's profitable, I know action's profitable, I know drama's profitable. When did pain become profitable? Because it seems like pain sells. So like, for example, like go watch Jackass and you really literally watching a movie about a group of people who just putting themselves in positions to be hurt. Or like Terry, like you said, these pranks now, like pranks aren't even about being funny anymore as though they are about being offensive. Like you'll see like some white boys, and I'll use black people too. You'll see like some white boys come to the hood and they'll walk up to some guys on the corner knowing that this will offend them, like, hey, what's up? You want to fade? And he's like, yo, what you talking about, man? Going over, you want to fade? And then the dude run up on him and they like pull out some clippers, like, you want to fade? Or, you'll have some guy, black guy.
I couldn't fathom doing that. I don't get what's the deal.
Or like there's this black guy, and I think it's funny though, and I'm being accountable because I think it's funny. And you've probably seen him. He goes into the grocery store, he goes into these department stores, and he'll say something offensive on the phone about you. But then when you look, he'll be like, "Oh, I'm on the phone. I'm talking to some son." For example, there'll be a girl eating Cheetos. He'll be like, "You already overweight. You don't need no Cheetos." And she'll be like, "Excuse me." He's like, "Oh, I'm on the phone. I'm talking on the phone, not you." Or there'll be somebody, and he'll be like, "You know, you can't afford that. Put that down." And it's like, when did pain become funny? Whether it's physical pain, whether it's causing somebody to doubt themselves intellectually, like even documentaries. Like I watched this documentary, and it was about skin color, and it was about the dark versus light thing, and they had these kids all in this room, and they had like they did a group of white kids, and they were asking them like, how do you see yourself? Oh, I'm beautiful. Oh, I think I'm gorgeous. Oh, I'm this. And they had dolls, right? And like, what doll is beautiful? And they would all pick up the white doll because you pick up what's familiar. You pick up what you look like. Maybe one or two kids picked up like the Indian doll, the Hispanic doll, the black doll. But then you had these black kids. And even when they were lighter tone and they would ask them, how do you look? The lighter ones say, I'm beautiful, I'm a queen. Some of the dark ones, I don't think I'm okay, I'm pretty or whatever. But when they got to the dolls, like 90% of the kids picked up the white doll, even though they were black, like, this is beautiful. And they were saying like how the media is portraying what beauty should be, what masculinity should be, what manhood should be, what femininity should be. Like, we are being told what's beautiful, what's ugly, what's manly, what's feminine, what's masculine. And it just seems like Pain has become like I don't know who in the world just FaceTimed me. But what do you guys think about that? What's your take on that? Even like you were saying, Terry, sorry, I know you're thinking, John, like World Star. World Star exists mostly because it's a platform that is like fighting, arguing, cussing, even though they have some good rap songs on there, but most of them are like beef and rap songs. But then you think of it, when is the last time you heard like a beefing country song? Or when's the last time you heard of like Slipknot beefing with Mushroom Head? You know, it's like rap.
I think I get you. So I think it's that people are growing less and less accountable for their actions. Like there's not as much consequence anymore. Like look at the stuff that I think like if a movie, like I said earlier, if a movie came out and they did some like, dude, look at it right at the beginning of that of part 2. Wasn't that a gay bash scene?
Yeah.
How was that not made
Yeah.
a massive issue that these random Valley guys just beat up 2 gay guys because they didn't like the fact that they were gay? They beat them pretty much to death.
In the new it?
The part 2, the second, you know,
the newer version.
when they had to come back to the town or whatever. At the beginning of the scene, they beat him up at the carnival and threw him over the
absolutely correct.
That I did see.
Yes.
Yeah, it's selective, bro. Like people want to they pick and choose what they want to be offended by. But it's because what sells, what gets you popular, what opinion gets you more likes and more exposure. It's not because they actually feel that.
Bashing scene.
Yeah.
Wow, I just completely forgot that even happened.
Because nobody made an issue about it. It wasn't big, dude. Because they didn't believe anything was gonna come of it. If they made that, you're not gonna get more likes because you brought that up, you know. But like it's like that. But I think too, you don't get like people can say whatever. People can say things and be backed up by some type of like rule, you know, like oh because of this or because I'm in this class or whatever, or because I work at this place or whatever, I could get away with this. And like, oh, I'm that guy. It's not me, you know. I'm just the guy who comes up with the material. It's not what I actually, you know, there's so many excuses and stuff. So I think that, and then too, you have platforms that like just they thrive off of that. So they found ways to fight for their content, you know, and because of that, it promoted that it's okay to be offensive. Obviously, like if these platforms are surviving and these, you know, TV shows are surviving for being that way, then we could do this. I mean, hip hop made it popular to be baggy and sag and all that, right? But nowadays, even young kids are like, bro, pick your pants up. Like the slim fit era is back. You know, like, bro, and then you still got guys that try to sag slim fits and they'll wear like their little brother's pants and have their entire boxers showing. And it's like, bro, that mug is right above your kneecaps. But that, I think it's just the influence. Like we were saying, what we were talking about earlier. You agree, John, at all?
Yeah, no, heck yeah. I'm right there with you in terms of it seems like you ever have like an artist who's like how do I even say this? Like a Little Richard, right? When he kind of came out with his style of music and then like Elvis bit off the back of it and all of a sudden he becomes the guy. And it's like, well, we live in the United States of America where like more people can relate to Elvis just off of race alone. You know what I mean? And that's what makes him more profitable. Or like Usher and Justin Timberlake. You know, all of a sudden Justin Timberlake's having more album sales than what Usher's having, even though talent-wise, I would consider Usher Raymond to be a little bit more higher, but it's the relatability. Yeah. Adele, same thing. That's what Pain is, man. Like Pain is just way more relatable to people. You know what I mean? Like it's a reason why like being offensive is easier to digest because a lot of us already have a relationship with being offensive to someone somewhere. It's hard to look at true happiness and be like, I can watch this for 30 minutes. That will become offensive to you or become foreign. You know what I mean? Seeing someone, you know how crazy it is. I just had this conversation. When somebody scores an NFL touchdown and they're celebrating, they literally get fined to tell them not to celebrate. And the reason being is because the people who are watching it, like, it's hard to relate to that level of happiness. And it's so hard to relate to it that they'll fine you for it in order to stop you so that you don't offend their constituents. However, you can watch somebody get hit head on, head to head, be paralyzed on a field. They'll keep the camera on them because it's more relatable to the pain aspect. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my thing. I just think that pain is just more of an innate human characteristic, sadly, than happiness, joy, compassion, giving is. So
I could see that. Like if like when a situation happens and people pull their phones out, they're not trying to expose you for being like a jerk or nothing. They're kind of be like empathetic, basically, like saying like, look what we go through,
bro.
Right. And they don't mean it in that sense, but that's how, see, from it's two views on that, because like what I just said is like, they think it'll get them more likes and all that. But then you burst in my bubble with that perspective, because that makes sense to me too.
Oh man,
that actually makes sense. That actually makes sense in a sense where it like restores a little bit more hope to look at it from that perspective, because it's like the intentions are still pure. You know, it's not like somebody is just looking at you as an opportunity to gain like things. They're looking at you as an opportunity to help recognize a point, recognize like a situation that's not okay, or okay in a sense too. Some people like to film like crazy stuff and they're like, look what we're capable of too. Yeah, that makes sense.
But you know, like if you have like an emotion, like, and I think kind of go along with the book you're reading, Terry, like someone was like, emotion is just like pure energy. Like it's just pure energy. Like when you take like off the human perspective of like what is good, what is bad, the morality of it is just pure energy. And pretty much a neutral spot will be right here in the middle of this screen, like right where I'm pointing at, right? And right here is happiness. Right here is like joy. Right here is like being elated. Down here is like anger. Down here is sadness. Down here is sorrow. If I move over here, I'm moving 100 spaces this way. I'm moving energy 100 spaces this way. If I move over here, I'm moving energy 100 spaces this way. All people want is the feeling of I'm moving something. I'm floating through this thing. The thing about it is, though, it's easier to drop weight than it is to lift weight. So instead of being like, I'm going to do what I got to do to make myself elated, they're like, I'm just going to make myself sad. They're still feeling the energy move, but it's just easier to drop it to like lower nature things than to surround yourself with things of like of a higher nature, because you got to kind of lift and elevate that stuff up.
I mean, that shows obvious in our culture. Like we're being dehumanized, basically. Like,
man,
people are scared of physical experience because it seems dangerous. It seems threatening to our health and our mental health. You know, it's like you go out to the corner store and you see somebody that seems interesting to talk to. Hey, what's up, man? How you been? And they look good. Like, it's like, why? You know, and that's how you get approached with icebreaker conversations now. You almost kind of gotta. It's the same thing. Like even when we do it as people, as individuals out in the street, as much as we do it in like interviews and stuff, where if someone's gonna mention somebody's name, they have to like drop a bouquet of flowers on them before they start to give their opinion, because they're scared of this person taking it wrong. Because everybody right off the back, it just receives everything like negative right now, you know, because it's popular to be a victim.
Oof.
But if you look outside of our bubble, dude, if you look in our bubble from before, this is like, dude, people are so like safe and kinder and all these positive things to pay attention to. But it's trippy because, like earlier we were saying, like the amount of things you have to go through to reach levels of success
Mm.
It almost leaves you to where your mental state is changed. You know what I mean? And you don't even recognize the amount of success you have when you get there.
Wow.
You talk to rich people and successful people, and they're like, yeah, it's just money. It's just a house. Oh yeah, these are just clothes. It's just material and all that. But if you talk to that person when they were a teenager, they're like, yeah, man, we out here about this money. You know what I mean? I'm chasing that bag, my guy. Like, blah, 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 and this and that. Or like, even like the more sophisticated approach, like, yeah, I'm in these classes. I'm thinking about owning a couple of, businesses, taking over my dad's and this and that. And they're all hungry for this success, right? But then when they reach it, they're like, yeah, none of this crap means anything, bro. Like none of it. Like just enjoy your life. They're trying to talk you out of that process because it's crazy. But then that's why I say, like, I do want to reach a level of success, but not ultimate success of not typical success. I've never been interested in that. And it's like, I dabble in different things, and the people around me too. I hang out with a lot of people that do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that, do a little bit of that. And I love that type of environment because it keeps me like, what's that about? What's that? That exists too. I want to try that and this and that, And it's like, that's what life is about. It's just experiencing things. But like, we're raised to, like, you go to school, you find one career, you do that until you retire, and then you teach your kids to follow that same narrow ass path, and you'll be happy in life, financially set, right? But those people end up like offing themselves. It's like, you know how much stuff is happening around you while you're walking through that little tunnel, bro? So it's crazy. I think the whole thing with pain and what guides our civilization right now, it's just we're all lost. We went through like a dramatic government exposure, and then a pandemic and all this stuff during the time when like social media was becoming like a financial like diamond. Like you could start a YouTube channel and become super wealthy, and all you have to do is just have fun every morning and like network. You know what I mean? I know people hate on video games so much, but there's gamers that are buying brand new houses for their families. Right. Like playing video games. There's this one, Will, Garrett, the skater from Skate, he does Skater XL stuff. That dude had a house built for him. He got a skate park built on the side of his little house, and now he's got like all off YouTube, all off of YouTube. And he was like a skater. He was like going to become a pro skater, and he just like went to that. Look at what's his name that made the rapper, the guy. He made the Suicide Hotline or whatever song.
Hobson?
No, not Hobson. Logic. Quit. Logic quit at the peak of his career to become like a online gamer, like to become a streamer, a YouTube
streamer now.
Yeah. So
Snoop
like
Cole and Call of Duty too.
Yeah.
Snoop Cole.
It's crazy. Who would imagine like somebody reaching the level of success he did and rapping and music, and then it just fall off to that?
Wow.
So it's like, it depends on what you're ready to take on, I guess.
Well, here go a two-part question. Because we're talking about entertainment, right? We didn't talk about everything but horror, and I'm gonna leave horror.
Before you start, sorry, I have to go by 8:30. All
right, cool. Then we're gonna end this right now after this question. Because I want to do an episode on nothing but horror movies, because that's my thing. And John, I'm gonna try to hopefully in 2 weeks get you and the missus on, so y'all can drop some knowledge on starting a business, to get people who want to start that business up, because you, her, and Terry are the entrepreneurs. So this is a two-part question. Then we get up out of here. So comedy. We talked about all kind of things but comedy. And when I say comedy, I mean stand-up comedy, not movie comedy. It's one of the oldest forms of entertainment. People been bagging on each other, telling jokes for years. But now it seems like comedy is under attack because it seems like they're trying to limit what funny is. My question to you guys is there anything that's off topic? Well, let's go back to like Eddie Murphy when he did Raw. He talked about, homosexuality. He talked about racism, talked about church. He talked about meeting women on foreign lands and I want half and all of this other stuff. And now with this council culture, it's like, I'll give you an example. What's the guy that was in Friends? When he got upset and he was in the club and he just started calling it all kind of N-words, 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 N-words.
You mean Seinfeld?
Seinfeld, yes,
Yeah,
yes, Seinfeld.
Oh, Kramer, yeah.
N-words, right? But it wasn't in the context of comedy. But then you have somebody like Corey Holcomb, who can go into a comedy club, which I believe he's a genius, and he can talk about things like abortion. You know, he can talk about things like suicide and everything else in the form of comedy. Do you think that comedy should be, I guess, filtered? Or do you think comedy is no holds barred as long as whatever they're talking about is funny? For me, I think truth is funny. So if you're talking about racism, but you're talking about it in truth, it's funny. If you're talking about abortion, but you're talking about it in truth, it's funny. If you're talking about black people, but you're talking about black people in truth, it's funny. If you're talking about rednecks, but you're talking about rednecks in truth, it's funny. The only problem, I believe, is that funny is very subjective. What's funny to me may not be funny to you guys. So what's your take on that? Should comedy be filtered? Should we be canceling comedians like Ari Spears, Corey Holcomb, Bill Burr, or should we let those guys have that lane because that's what comedy is?
I don't believe it should be censored because from just in my time, from when I was little, I found comedians way funnier when there was more material. When they can go further out into the deep end. And nowadays it's pretty annoying that people have to like protect every single sentence that they come out with. It like most of the time, like I there's specials that I like procrastinating on watching just because I'm like, he's gonna apologize about some stuff and then he's gonna talk about the same thing that every other comedian right now is talking about, gender, this and that, right? But then if you gave people, they're only doing that because they want to like solidify themselves as someone who like cares but is still a comedian. But that's not what being a comedian was. Comedians were, you had the card to be like inappropriate, and it came knowing that they're a comedian, it came from a innocent place. It's not like, you know, and then they'll get on each other if somebody did say something offensive, you know what I mean? Cat Williams will show up on your feed the next day, you know, like that. Those, they don't play with each other. They got each other locked down, you know, and they protest against each other, all that stuff. But nowadays it's like, it's almost like they're like, we're trying to kill comedy off, like completely get rid of it because it's getting worse and worse and worse. Like there's becoming more the bars of what you could say are becoming more and more narrow, and that destroys material. And then eventually it's going to be too realistic to be like something. It's going to be like, what do we talk about? Is it just going to be news? You hear whole bits about just like our social dilemma right now. And it's like, dude, there's so much other stuff to talk about. You know what I mean? So much crap to talk about. There's a whole bunch of stuff in life that's going on that's funny. There's things that's going on that are gonna go on that's gonna be funny, but no one feels like safe to talk about it unless they see that it's, once you see somebody else brings it up, like a radical is like, I don't care, I'm gonna say it. And then they get no hit. Now like 20 other comedians are gonna have a joke about that same subject. So it's being controlled. That's not funny. It's the difference of like when the Wayans brothers were in Scary Movie and then when they weren't in it. Right? Those movies are trash.
I stole from under them. I watched a documentary on that. They didn't even know that they weren't in control of it no more after 2.
Oh yeah. And then because it was more open and funny. And then when you get the newer the ones after that, it was like they put rules on it, trying to like replicate what was the previous ones had on it. But those personalities are not replaceable. You know, so I feel like it should be open. What about you,
What you
John?
got, John?
No, I mean, I'm 1,000% where you're at. And it's a quote that they always say, like, stay dangerous. And the only reason I believe in that is because, put it like this, like everything that even the nicest of person, everything that you believe in, that you think to be morally good, in about 20 years, it'll be considered offensive. That's pretty much, you can't watch Eddie Murphy's Raw. If you played that out in the public right now, they'd be like, oh my God, you said, what about who? Italians or gays? Da, da, da. So there's a quote that I love, and it says that it deals with the thing of avoidance doesn't equal fixing something. And the quote is, it's best to go out and kill a dragon than deal with it when it comes to your village.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my
dude.
stance on it.
What do you think is gonna happen? Like, if you think, like, if when you're as a boy growing up, right? If you're scared of fighting, what do your uncles tell you? You gotta get out there and get in the fights.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And how do you get better at it? You fight more, right? But like, I mean, they're not telling you to go get in trouble, but hit the gym or do something like that, right? And if the person is like scared of sports, there are people like that, which is weird, but I've met a lot. I've had friends growing up who were scared of sports. They're like, I'm good. Like, it's just basketball, bro. Relax. I got your back. Be on my team. They're like, you sure you're gonna be there? Yeah, dude. Don't worry about it. Come on. But after like 5 games, they're like, hey, bro, we're gonna go to play basketball this weekend, right? So it's the same thing, like socially, like people will get less offended by things if they hear more often. That point was made about like the offensive words, like the N-word and things like that. Like they were trying to push those points. Easier said than done, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like in that same sense, like we had so much offensive content back in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up. Just speaking from my experience, that like when I heard those things, certain things on the streets, I'm like, it wasn't really that bad. I mean, I remember that in the movie. Because I heard it in the movie, it wasn't offensive to me right there. Or if I seen this person say this or act a certain way, because I had been exposed to it previously, I had already I had a chance to like callous up to it. But you got a new generation that's coming into a completely offended society to where they're not going to be able to take any type of criticism at all. Everything you say to them they're going to be like, are you serious? You're assuming right now that I came here late because of this? I'm out of here. And it's like, how you going to run your life, bro? Because way more people are going to hate on you than love you. You're going to get way more no's in life. You're going to get way more, get the hell out of here. I don't want to hear it. Then you're going to get, come on, we're here for you, So you got to be able to take all that stuff. Like, it's getting to the point, imagine somebody wants to become like an actor in like 2025 or whatever. If it keeps going the way it's going, their first movie is going to suck because they don't have the experience, they don't have the personality and all that. And then they're going to be like, I can't take this. Everybody's so mean, I'm done, right? And they're going to go back to school and do something else. And it's like, nah, bro, like, that's their job. They're exposing your flaws.
Yeah.
Right? And then when the comedians come out and say some stuff, it's like they're exposing the flaws, but they're making it less painful because you're able to laugh at it. You get through it better, right? Doesn't mean they don't give a crap. They just, people learn from back in the day that if you expose it in a funny way, it's a little bit easier to deal with and hear, right? And then you get past it. I think that's what
I think the best way to give somebody the truth is in the form of comedy. The easiest way to swallow truth is in laughter. Fact. That's the opposite to me of pain. The opposite of pain is not pleasure to me, it's laughter. Because pain equals crying, hurt, tears. So if you want somebody to accept the hard truth, give it to them in laughter. So with that being said, I know you got to get out of here, Terry. I'm going to ask y'all one more. Just give me one. Just throw the first one that come out there. I'll go first. Best comedian ever, Chris Rock.
Oh, that's a rough one, bro.
I'm out there, whatever comes to your mind. It might not be that tomorrow, but Chris Rock.
Like as far as comedian and movies and all that, or just
That's
strictly
comedian ever. No, we talking stand up. Act. That's not comedy. That's acting. We talking stand up comedian.
Okay, stand up. That narrows it a lot. You might not.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was a big fan of Robert Williams. That dude was like.
That's what you saying? That's who we with. Robin Williams. Who you got, John?
Hey man, I gotta go with Bernard McCullough, Bernie Mac.
Ooh,
Bernie Mac, bro.
You heard me say. I say Eddie Griffin too, because I don't pull that card on me.
Hey, I got a list of people, but if
you guys ain't gonna be like Team Dark Skin and Team Light Skin.
Get that Eddie Griffin part out. You can't choose another one after he said Bernie Mac. You said Robin Williams, and that's a bar. Robin Williams, a legend. So okay. Robin Williams, Chris Rock, Bernie Mac. That being said, guys, we're getting ready.
Will pick one more, but he can't be African American.
Tony T. Roberts.
Ooh. Okay.
Tony Roberts.
We say it can't be African American?
No, it can't be African American?
No.
Oh, Tony Roberts is black.
I know. I thought
Bill
you
Burr.
were just like, no, I'm not going to change it, so I moved on.
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr is tight, yeah.
That's my select. I love Bill Burr.
Yeah. You seen F is for Family.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right, cool.
With that being said, guys, it's been an awesome episode. I don't know what we're going to title it because we didn't talk about everything. But before we go, guys, do me a favor. Please, you heard it at the beginning of the episode. You're hearing it at the end. Go to theseedbox.com. TheSeadbox.com. Support this man. He's a good guy, kind heart. He wants everybody around him to win, even y'all who ain't never met him. I guarantee you, if you meet him, he's gonna want you to win. Also, go to YouTube. You should already be on YouTube. You should have already hit like. You should have already hit subscribe. You should have already hit share. I know you want to. Go ahead and do it. It's free. Send us emails. Will and Terry 15@gmail.com. I don't have to spell that. Will and Terry 15@gmail.com. Let us know if you want to be interviewed. Let us know if you got something, a good skill, a job, a crazy story. We talk about anything and everything. We say it every episode. Everyone has something to teach. Everyone has something to learn. And we always provide the place for open conversation and honesty. Last but not least, go to YouTube. Go to that search bar. Type in Above the Influence. Hit follow, hit like, hit subscribe, do all that stuff for this man too, because you missing out if you're not following his reaction page. It's not like other people's reaction pages. He ain't on there trying to be funny. He ain't on there trying to be a gimmicky. He's literally on there listening to good music, talking about awesome experiences with people in the comments. I mean, I've seen people talk about, I buried my son to this song. I've seen people say, me and my wife danced to this song and she passed of leukemia last week. I think people, I just got married last week and this is the song we danced to. He's on there making connection, guys. So again, that's Above the Influence. John, Terry, love y'all. Thank you guys for always being my brothers. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when we didn't see eye to eye. You guys always loved me through. I love you guys. Thank you, man.
How would you type Above the Influence? Is it just how it's spelled?
Yep, just how it's spelled. Above the Influence Reactions.
All right, I'm gonna give you a follow right now.
My God.
I heard the man. Above the Influence Reactions. I left that part out. But with that being said, Terry, do you know what day it is?
It's Wednesday. Wednesdays with Will and
Terry. We never get it right, but that's all right.
I don't think that's
I love you guys.
Happen,
I love you guys, man.
Love you guys too. Good to meet you, man. Yeah.
Honored to meet you, bro.
Yeah, for sure.